Daniel Guys from ED Films. I'm the creative and technical director here, just here for our Sunday Twitch stream. I figured maybe we would try getting back on that character again that was giving us so much grief. I didn't really solve the problem yet, but I had a few ideas. I tested a couple things. I think it might work. I'm not sure. Um, I had a couple really good notes from where was it? From Colin who sent me a test scene to try. Um, Let me just see. Hang on, sorry, I'm just trying to get my screen here configured so I can actually see what's going on. I'm just about there. Please excuse this unprofessional. Sorry, moment. Just trying to adjust here. Okay, great. So Colin Harvey CG sent a solution, and I wanted to just at least check it out and just talk about it because I did look at it and it's working. Maybe a little bit hard for somebody who doesn't understand what's going on to see what's happening, but basically they've set up, Colin Harvey CG has set up the IK, and there's this little dampened wrist thing happening on these two pins here, which is working. But in order to do it, I just want to go over what Colin Harvey had said, CG had said. He created a target null, and he parented it to the elbow joint. So the target null is right here. It's locked at the moment, I believe, and it's parented to the elbow. And then what else happened here? It is positioned so it extends out past the wrist joint, as if the hand were pointing straight out. So that's where it's out here. It's way past the wrist, which is here. Onto that layer's position, put a version of the parent fade expression. So let's see if we can see this here. This is an interesting little bit of code that Colin Harvey CG had shared with me a while ago. It's really actually quite simple, but it does this. It's sort of a look at, but you can fade it off with a slider. It's really cool. I'm not 100%. I can't really explain it as well because, oh no, I'm just dealing with a little bit of a new setup because Colin's setup is not the same as mine here. But using this slider, you can fade off how much that look at controller is affected. Anyways, I know I'm probably butchering this, so if Colin Harvey's there and wants to say you're a total idiot, that's not exactly how it's working. Basically, you can see what's happening here, and I'm just reading off Colin Harvey's description of what was done here. Onto the layer position, he put a version of the parent fade expression, the one that we used on the bike rig, which was a while ago, and set the attract position to the end of the hand. Then set the fade to 0.25 or whatever fade value you care for, and that just reduces how tightly it's pointing at that object. Then set a look at on the wrist adjustment null so that it's always looking at the target. Since the target null is always between the 2 points, no matter where they are in relation to each other, we get the effect that we're looking for. It's pretty elaborate. It's brilliant, but it's elaborate. And I think it's really smart. I did want to try something where we don't have to do something like that. I think it's really awesome, and we may end up having to go here. It's a really cool workaround. Also, I can see that there would be some other really neat uses for this exact thing. But what I wanted to try is maybe I had a couple ideas around taking a look at the math that's going on, but also just trying something totally different where ever that weird little glitch effect happens, that's happening in some kind of weird arm position and not specifically any position that we use on the regular. Okay, there's no sound. I don't know. Can someone else let me know if there's no sound? Oh, hey, Spenrita. Okay, so there is sound. Maybe Archita, I don't know, check your speakers and let me know. Okay, so we've got 3 people with sound, 1 person without sound. Archita, keep us posted if you need some more sound. Anyways, I'm sorry if I butchered that, Colin. Colin Harvey CG. I think if you want to sum it up at all in the chat and just sort of sum up what you said to me, that might be helpful. But essentially, I believe we're creating a target for it to look at, and then using Colin Harvey's CG's fade expression, this one here, you can kind of get it to point to you can get it to adjust between 2 layers to two different extremes, or 2 positions to do different extremes. So it's a pretty handy little thing. We used it for a bumping pipe, which was really cool. You can basically set 2 values, and it's just jumping between those 2, and you can use it to track objects and stuff and sort of fade between the 2. Really cool. I think it's a really great little plugin, a little expression, and very simple actually. It's not too crazy, as you can see. Anyways, so I did want to tackle this character thing one last time before we go back to that other scene we're working on. And the main reason is just to see if we can get around this, because I know it's this channel is one of the reasons people even come here is for character rigging stuff. So I just thought it might be worth investing in one more round. So what I thought of doing is I have the skeleton and I brought it back in. I did a tiny little bit of work, just realigning some things and getting the arm joint the way I wanted. But what I was actually thinking of doing next is I did try an experiment where the arm, I rigged it like this. Let me just copy this and I'll paste this new skeleton in here. I'm just going to do, I guess I'll just copy the whole thing. Or actually, let's just do this. Bump. We'll duplicate this. Okay, and then we'll just get rid of this stuff. Just cleaning house a little bit. See ya. Okay, so we just have the skeleton that we were playing with. One thing I was thinking too is I might just try it with nulls. I don't know if anybody else knows out there or not whether it matters if there's starting rotations on objects or not. That was one thing I was a little unsure about, whether it mattered. So right now, these objects have a 0 rotation value. But of course, if I put them into a new position, they're going to have a rotation value. So I'm not quite sure if it's going to be helpful or not for that. If I start the arm up here, for instance, at 180. And I'm not sure if it's just going to add a big rotation value to it. Now we get some weird things because we need to think about the way you wanted the arm. It's kind of weird. So I started playing with this idea of you can either start the arm rig up here or start it here, because I noticed it happens about here where we get the glitches. So unless this is happening, this position is happening a lot, it wouldn't be a problem. Unless, of course, the character is tilted forward and the arm's reaching out. So I thought we could try to rig up here and see what happens. The tricky part comes in when you want to have a, let's just make a new little solid. Boom. And we'll just make we'll kind of make it green or something so it doesn't mix up with our bone solids. Let's do 25 by 25. Ooh, that's pretty small. That's okay. So a little weirdness happens when you're dealing with the clavicle. The clavicle, which affects the position and rotation of the whole arm. So there's a little bit of experimentation. But what I was thinking of doing is let's just try to rig this up at a totally different angle and see if we start getting where the rotation flip happens. So we'll do this auto rig thing again. We'll select all these layers. We're back in Duik again. We'll do an auto rig. Yep. Just the front leg arm. Oh, I forgot to name the clavicle. Not that we really have to, but excuse me. Okay. Forearm. No, we want this to be the arm, clavicle, arm, forearm, and hand. Bonk. Okay. So we're rigged up already, which is really nice. And there's some weirdness that happens. So, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what transpires. So the ultimate goal is just to get that arm roughly back where you wanted it. The rotation value, the thing that sucks about this is you can't just zero things out easily anymore. But the question is, I mean, there's a few questions about what the ultimate value, what are the problems you want to solve? Like, we either put code all over everything, or now this is an interesting thing I haven't seen before, is the flipping thing. So we'll check that out. Okay, it doesn't flip here. It flips here. Okay, let's not put the arm straight up. We'll undo all of this. I know this is probably super annoying. I'm definitely learning a lot with this though. So regardless of how potentially frustrating this is to have to watch, I'm finding it's a good thing to experiment with, because I've never had these problems before, and I'm not sure if the Do It guys have changed their algorithm or what's happened that's so different, but things are definitely different. Okay, let's go clavicle. Okay, let's try this again. Select all of them. Okay, that looks right. Okay. Okay, the pop happens by the time we're up here. Now I'm not sure what that would have to do with exactly. Try reversing the clavicle, see what that does. Does the pop happen in the same place? It happens up here. Okay, well that's interesting. So, oops, let's just put the reverse clavicle. Can always adjust this later. I just want to see if we're getting the hand flip popping that's going on. Let's also turn off the goal hand for now. All right. We'll probably have to, we're going to get so far down the rabbit hole here, we won't be able to undo anymore. Oh, that's a good question. We're getting a question if this is the same thing that happens with just without the auto rigging and just doing an IK. I think it is. I think I tried that and I was still getting the same problem. But so I just want to watch, I'm just going to watch this hand's rotation. So we're at 325. But I will try that. I'll try that next because I can't remember. So basically I'm looking for where these values suddenly fly way down into any of these values where they flip from the positives to the negative low numbers. So we're in positives right now. Okay, that's a pretty good range there. We haven't had any major flips. There's a flip there. So right here, even though we rigged it all the way back, it's like right there. So yeah, so you can see this is where it goes from the 31, all of a sudden we pop over to a 1, and this is where we're having all our problems with the soft rigging, trying to do any kind of soft rigging based on the arm. Okay, so essentially 180 degrees from the position back here, and I think we've gone so far down here, we're not going to be able to undo this. Possibly. Oh yeah, we did. We're good. Let's go redo. Can we do redo more? Edit. Control-Shift-Z. Control-Shift-Z. I always forget the redo button. Come on, come on, come on. I just want to get this back. Oh. Oh, no. Ugh. Don't do that, I guess. We just exploded After Effects. See if we can get out of this. I don't think it's going to work. We're probably going to have to do a full terminate on the task manager. So I was redoing, and I accidentally redid the rigging, the auto rig, and it's exploded After Effects. This problem is super annoying. I guess while we're waiting for this to reload, I'll just let you know what I've been working on. I've been working on the Animatic for the film I've been making. It's the Harry Hill film, and I've just been working in TV Paint to lay out the animation, the rough animation, and the storyboarding. Let's just open that again. There we go. We'll have to just do this again. I'm sorry, that's really annoying. But essentially, I've been having a lot of fun. I was really surprised how fast. I usually use Photoshop for animation stuff, but I definitely find I get lost in the details a little bit. So by using TV Paint, I've just been going straight ahead and drawing it, and I'm able to rework the timing really fast, which you can't do in Photoshop. It's really tedious. Even in After Effects, it's really tedious to retime animation. But in this program, I don't remember how to group the layers yet, but you basically just grab one of these handles here and pull it in and out, and it moves things. You can duplicate frames really easily, can expand things really easily. It's a really fast way to work. I'm just finding it's wonderful for animatics and storyboarding. It's able to move really quickly and get quite a bit of animation done on it, and figure out my cameras without getting too caught up in the details like I normally do if I'm using Photoshop or 3D. So anyways, that's that. I've been working on that. I'll just get rid of this because we won't be working on that again today. This is interesting. I'm trying to close the program and it will not let me. We're saving and we'll try to exit from here. There we go. And it's moved After Effects all the way up here for some weird reason. What is this? Adobe Audition is opened for some reason. Interesting. Okay. So I just want to try a couple more things, and then we're just going to try, just like was suggested, let's try doing just a regular rig of the IK, where I think it will happen again, but we'll find out. And then I want to just look at the math really quick. I know I can there's probably nothing with my understanding of Duix stuff. There's probably nothing I can do, but I thought it might be worth checking out. Okay, there's the collarbone, or the clavicle. Okay, let's try again. Clavicle. Oh, let's order these guys properly. And we'll just do the parenting like we needed to before. Clavicle. Okay. And we'll just do an IK. We won't do an auto rig this time. And we will do 2-layer IK with a goal. We'll do create. Actually, this I have not. Oh, we messed up because we don't want the clavicle at this point. I'm not sure how to manually build a clavicle, but I'm going to have to figure out how. If this works, I'm going to have to figure out how to build a clavicle manually. I don't know if I select the layer. I didn't select the layers properly. I think I have to do this like the old school way. Hand, forearm, arm. Oh yeah, and we need a controller, right? Right. Sorry guys, forgot about that. Hand. Oh yeah, and the hand rotation point is not good. Oh no, it's rigged. Okay, we need to assign a controller. Yeah, there is a way. We could possibly. One way we could do it, which is kind of annoying, but it's possible this could work. We could just copy the code from a clavicle that they make, that's made in an auto rig, and paste that on. There's got to be just some basic values that we can copy, and we could probably manually rebuild one. Hand, forearm, arm, clavicle at the top. We don't get to use it. So we need a controller too. So this is more back to the old school way of doing things. We need a controller, bonk for that. What kind do we want? We want rotation. We don't need that. Oh yeah, that's transformation. That's scale. We'll have it white. That's fine. Position. I think it's okay. All right. So we have our controller. So I think we select the end of the IK all the way to the arm, and lastly the controller. Then we poke this, make sure we're on 2, and let's see what happened. Okay, that works. We have IK at least, and it's stretchy IK, which is nice. We don't have a clavicle. Actually, you know what? Clavicles aren't that hard to make just manually if you want to get the general behavior. You don't get all the fancy stuff they have, but you don't get that weird freak out that it does either. Like a clavicle is like a little extra rotator, essentially. So if I wanted to get a similar behavior with a clavicle, which is you can get transform and rotate, you can over it. You want to limit it how far it can go, I guess. So you could put a math ceiling on it, but let's just see if this solved any of our problems. Because if it did, this is the way we want to go. Back to the old school. Well, older. I think this is already looking better. My values are way less squirrely. I think this is what we have to do. I'm not getting any weirdness on this. I think we may have solved our problem. It's a miracle. I don't know how to say Petlovic 1205. Thank you for encouraging this testing adventure because I think it works. So, but the auto rig, and I guess that would stand to reason why I've never run into this before because I never really used auto rig because it freaked me out so much. How do you say that sound? PCHE. Can you like phonetically type that out? I'm sorry. I'm probably butchering it. It's because I don't know what to say. I don't know how to pronounce that. All right. So I think this will be the way we go. And I think as far as a clavicle is concerned, I think what we'll do is we'll go here. We can parent. Oh, sorry. What am I doing? We can parent the arm to the clavicle. Oh, we already did. Okay, so that's fine. So basically, a clavicle does two different things. It can rotate up and down, right? So that would be the equivalent of as your arm's moving, it's kind of rotating. And it also can move up and down, right? It can translate the shoulder just up and down. So essentially what we can build into the clavicle is, since our rotation values are sane and not totally off the charts, what we could build into it is we could build, first off, it can take, really simply, I'll just throw, this is really going to be quick and dirty. So if we take the clavicle, I'm not even looking at their code. I don't know if I want to go there. So I just want to just do this. This is what I would do just in my normal non-math, like non-coder brain, is I would look for the upper arm's rotation. So I would just go arm rotation because I like making variables because then I can reuse it in other ways. So I would take this rotation value and then I would take this guy's value. And well, you know what? We'll do two variables because just to make things clear. Clav rotation equals this. So now what I can do is I can go clav rotation plus arm rotation. And then what we'll also do, just for the sake of, we could call this clav damp equals, I'm just going to put 0 for this for a sec. But on the clavicle, if we wanted to, we could put like a little expression slider controller. and call this dampening. I don't know. This might work, might not. I'm pretty sure it'll work, but we'll see. So now we just go here so we can see it, just to make it so it's quick and easy to pick whip. Bonk. Here we go. Okay, clav damp is the value of, I'll go like this, 1 minus whatever that is. So if we have 0 dampening effect, that means we'll have the full effect. So if we go this, minus clav damp, or I guess we could go times. We'll go times clav damp, right? Because we want to, we want a percentage. So I think this should work. Thanks for sharing that. Hey, you know what? For you guys who are there right now, I guess, Colin Harvey, are there any security risks that you're aware of for sharing a Dropbox folder for people? Because I was starting to think that if we want to put up basically project files or anything like that, might be good to set up a little Dropbox folder, or I don't know if Google Drive's a better place to go, but if you guys have any recommendations of something that would be just a cool place that we can throw things from one of the videos or that anyone can grab at. I'm just not sure what the security risks are involved. So if anyone has any ideas, just let me know. Okay, so what should happen, if I haven't messed this up somehow, is we should be adding an extra rotation onto this. And then what we should be able to do is by using the clavicle dampener. So let's just say if we did 0.5, it should rotate half as much. But what it does is, well, it's actually adding that weird flip problem that we had before, strangely enough. Probably because I've done something dumb. It's completely flying off the hook. I probably did something stupid. I'm not sure if this is what my problem is. Let me just do something really quick and I'll comment. I won't use that. Let's just put times 0.2. Oh yeah, it still does it. So it's fine going up, but it definitely doesn't like going back. Plus armor. It could be because we're doubling up the arm rotations, possibly? No. Let's just have a look here. What is the arm? The arm is at 0. And once we get here, so far it throws it way, 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 way off. Yeah, this is one of the things that would be one of the problems we might run into, is that the clavicle adjusts the rotation so much we lose the connection to this. That's an interesting problem. Okay, so the arm has gone into the 300s. Maybe this is where we might run into our problems. Yeah, look we have it right here. Interesting. So as soon as we've done something here, let me turn this off completely and see what happens. Okay, was I totally wrong? Do we still have that problem? I didn't notice it before, but maybe we do still have that problem. Let's unparent this and see. Weird. I have all these moments of thinking everything's okay and then it's not. This is... Yeah, Colin Harvey's right. We're still going to have the problem. It's all good this way. But then as soon as we go negative, we just it just went into the... I thought it was okay, but it's not. It's only okay all the way up if we go forward. But as soon as we go back, we're going to get this big jump in the value on everything because it has to work all the way down the chain. It'll never work. I don't know why it ever worked in the first place, to be honest. Yeah, Colin Harvey's right. It's never going to work. And I don't know why I ever had it working in my life to begin with. That's the really weird thing. Is I don't recall ever having this problem before. I mean, I've done it on so many projects. So I guess we're just ultimately stuck having to use, let me just see what this is. The goal is C effect goal hand. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure something out. I'm just looking at something here. We're just doomed. I guess we just have to do it the way that Colin figured out. I thought we had it for a second. I'm such a dummy. As soon as we go past the negative, I mean, that would mean, hmm. I don't know what to do. Yeah, I'm going to have to pull up the old projects and see what's different because I've definitely never ever had this problem. I've even in Country of Wolves, I rigged up the characters with dampened wrists and never ever had a flip happen like this. So I have no idea. It makes very little sense to me why that would work that way. You know, why we would run into that. It makes sense because of the math, obviously. Like the math has to do that. It has to go from 360 back to 0 again. That's kind of just the way these things work. I just want to try this again. Hand, forearm. So, and the controller. Okay. Create. Okay. I feel like I'm delusional or something. It must be. Yeah, see, we go to instantly -1. So that would cause a huge flip. So even as this moves at all, we get -1. Weird, okay. Yeah, we're still stuck. We're still stuck. I don't know. I think it's, yeah. I wonder if there's any way. There's definitely something there has to be something that's changed because I've never had this problem before. So it really comes down to whatever they're doing in their math. Something's changed. Let's change the IK limit to 720. This is probably the worst idea ever. What do we have here? Let's just make sure. I'm going to do the same thing here. This will probably create a ruin. I'm kind of excited to see what will happen, though, by changing the IK limit. This was the last thing I wanted to do, is I wanted to see if I could change the IK limit somehow. Okay. So that's the hand. I changed the IK limit up here. I'm just trying to see if there's another one here. There's no IK limit on the hand or the forearm. On the arm, there was the limit, and we need to just take a look at the hand really quick. I didn't see much on the hand. The hand's probably the most basic level of the IK thing. All right. We should change this whole channel just to a bug solving channel. Well, this is weird. I am refusing to get my hopes up for anything. Last time we were doing this, I think Spunrita and I were both freaking out at the same level of like, it's work. No, didn't work. Every time. It's working. No, didn't work. Wow, it goes all the way to a -2 now. I think we're just going to have to give up the dream on softened wrists for a bit, and then we'll have to do that method that Colin Harvey put together to try to do something that works, because there's nothing. All it does now that I've thrown in that thing is we just go up into the -2s. Something is different. I wish we could change the point of origin. I mean, the only other alternative I could see at this moment with the way it's behaving is if we rigged the arm like back here. Because since the arm will rarely ever go there, or it would go up there, is that we rig it. Let's just try it for the sake of doing it, but okay, let's try this. Since we're not doing a clavicle anymore, which makes this whole process, just a little bit more painfully difficult. And we'll change this controller again. We'll get rid of that controller. We'll add a new one. I just want to find a way that's fast, that doesn't, even if it's just like a slight cheat, I want to find a way that's a slight cheat versus, if it's possible, versus actually having to do a whole bunch of work to make it happen. It's not looking possible, though. This is not really looking good. Okay, so the arm would never really go back there. I mean, it could in a very specific thing, but it's really an extreme position. So let's try to rig it this way. Cool. Let's see what happens. What are our values? Our arm's at 243 already. And that could be just because we started at that angle. 268. 334. Goes down to 0. As soon as we hit here, flips. Everybody flips once we hit here, do they? Yep. Can you parent to a clavicle without rotation? Yeah, you could. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. You definitely could. Yeah, you could parent to a clavicle, I think, without rotation. You could do a counter rotation on it, or you could use a little piece of code that basically just parents something based on its position. It's like the two world, a little two world expression. Colin Harvey probably has that right in his back pocket. I can't remember that one right off the top of my head, but it's a two world expression so that an object will follow another object's position, but it won't be affected by that object's rotation. So that can be very helpful as far as a clavicle, because a clavicle just adds that nice floating, a little bit of a floating positional thing. That's the main thing it does. It's not so much the extra rotation, because you don't rotate from your clavicle. It's actually just kind of allows you to float around a bit. So I think of it more as a positional. That's how I used to do it before, is I would just add on the arm, I would add a little bit of translation based on the rotation or the position of the hand. So whatever the shift of the hand was, there would sort of be a little bit up and down. Yeah, there it is. Thanks, Colin Harvey CG. So it looks like even if I rig this thing way back up here, and it could be just based on the rotation of the arm, we get our flip down here, which isn't helpful. So we're going to try one last thing before we just give up on this wrist thing altogether, and we find some other solution to make a cool soft wrist, which we can no longer get using Duik, the way I used to. So I'm just going to create just a couple of little solids. We're going to get rid of this clavicle, and we're going to pretend these are our bones, because now we don't have to deal with rotations. So this will be our shoulder. Let's make sure we name things right. LFT B. So I'm just going to save this part here. Okay, and let's do, thanks for sending that out, Mr. Colin Harvey CG. Okay, we'll put this one here. This will be our elbow. Okay, and then we'll put our wrist. Wrist, left, 2, B. Okay, so we're just going to put these like this. And I just want to see, we'll add our little controller. I just want to see what's going to happen if they're at this angle, and that becomes our 0, which is our least likely position for the arm. Let's parent. We'll just parent everything properly. I've never, ever had this problem before. Clearly. But you know what? The last project I did, I didn't have soft wrists because they were all cut out characters and they were meant to look super cut out. So that's probably why I got away with it and didn't run into this problem. Okay, let's reverse that elbow. Okay. And so I guess we would sort of position, I made the arm way too long, obviously. We would position the arm like this. Let's check out what our rotation values are. Okay, so let's watch these values and see if we like flip from a positive to a negative anywhere. Well, that one, it doesn't matter if it goes from a positive to a negative. What matters if it goes from a 360 to something else. As soon as we get a 1 or it goes from a positive to a complete negative, that's what I'm looking for. Oh, that one's gone into positives somewhere. No, so we have a negative. I thought we had 2 negatives at one point there. Let me just double check. Okay, so far, top one's negative, the 2 bottom ones are positive. This elbow jumps, it's only in the positives because it's only bending on one way. Okay. And where does it all flip? There. Because we're dividing it by 0.5, the value is now flipping between 0. Oh, that's interesting. Do you mean on the clavicle or do you mean on the wrist? Because I figured something out here. I don't know if you're watching, Colin Harvey, but if it seems that the way it's working is just at the moment is that the 0 point for the IK is its rigging position based on the rotation values of the object that you've tied it to. So if the objects are oriented, I can't. If they're oriented like this, and then you rotate them up, you've added a bunch of numbers to it. I'm not getting the flip. That the flip is always going to happen, no matter what. Because as soon as we go over here, we're into the new territory. Because this is the 0. This is everything past here is 0. So, what I'm thinking is that if we start the rig in this position, which is the least, if you go like this, and the arm's way back and you bend up. Look, this is where you get your breakdown in the actual arm here. It's that now it's -1, and that makes everything else. So I just want to try something a little more with this before we get too far along. I'll put this position of the wrist back to 0. I don't know if this one doesn't 0, does it? No, it doesn't. You need to create a 0 object so you can 0 it out. So maybe I'll just try to undo. I want to try to add a little wrist thing to this, and we'll see what happens. Just see if I can put this back where it was. I got to be super careful that I don't undo the rig. Okay, everyone's at 0. I'm just going to save this. And I'm going to make a new solid, which is the wrist. And we will duplicate that, delete the expressions off the rotations. Make sure there's none in the position. Yes, there is. Okay, great. I'm going to parent it to the wrist. I'm going to scale this guy up. Maybe let's go 300. And let's make it semi-transparent. Okay, and maybe the color, Control-Alt-Y. Oops, Control-Shift-Y. I don't know if this is maybe you're watching this, you're like, this isn't going to work. You already know. I don't know. I'm trying something. Okay, so I'll make the rotation of this wrist. Watch this one. So they match, even though they're parented. Oh, good. No, actually, yeah, this one's parented. Probably would be better just to parent it to the elbow as well. I'm just thinking right now out loud. So right now, when this wrist rotates, the other one rotates as well. But I could make it, we'll just do times 0.5. So now when this wrist rotates, I wonder if this works this way anymore. Okay, so we have a goal wrist, which means it'll try to keep the wrist straight, I think. It's a little hard to... This is at -52, so that's okay. Are we getting flipping? It's hard to really tell if we're getting flipping. I mean, I don't see anything at the moment that would suggest we are. Okay, so this doesn't work if we have to be parented to the wrist if we want to get the stretching to work properly. Okay, which means we have to change this math a little bit. Where if we're parented to the wrist, we don't want to add the wrist rotation to it. We want to subtract. So we're going to take this layer's wrist, this comp layer, subtract. We'll take this one's layer value minus this one's, and you would times 0.1 or something, or 0.9. Let me just double check. Okay, so that gives us very little rotation. Okay, so let's try this. All right, so what's happening? It's really hard to tell. This one's just flying all over the place. It's like flipping a million times. Let's do 0.1. I think I have my math wrong or something a little bit. Okay. So that's at 8. That's at 0.8 negative. Okay, so that's at about... Interesting. Okay, so I'm definitely finding it seems a little more accurate. I'm not going to be able to tell until I get an arm on there. It seems to work a little bit better if we start the rig back. If we have anyone who objects, I'm totally open to that at the moment. But what I'd like to try maybe is take this guy. We'll hide everybody but the main guts of it all. Excuse me. And maybe see what happens. We can't use the skeleton arm that we have because it's already rotated. So we could use it as like a marker, but I think it's kind of pointless. What I want to do is we'll just take this. Actually, I will get rid of shoulder. I think I have 2 shoulders on this one. We're just going to start super simple. Get rid of that thing. So we have the arm, the wrists, the mitt. We don't need the mitt. Yeah, we do, but we don't need the thumb. Okay, I just want to, because I want to really simplify this thing, just to see. There should be like some wrist padding stuff here. For 1 second, let's find it. Not that, is it? I guess that would be the wrist. You're right. Okay, so the mitt. I'm not worried about these things, points or anything, because what I'm going to do is, it doesn't matter where their anchor position is, because I'm just going to raise the opacity of this. Okay. So just bear with me. Let's see if we can find a workaround that's reasonable. So I'm going to also create some null objects. Maybe I'll do that after I rotate these. Let's rotate these first. Sorry. I'm jumping all over the place. I can't make up my mind. I'm so absolutely flustered by this problem. It's driving me crazy. Okay, there. And then we'll take the forearm. It shouldn't really matter because I don't think I'm rotating that anywhere, but we'll just put this on for now. And then the mitt. The thing that the reason I want to use an actual body structure here is because it will, I will be able to see what's happening with the puppet pins, and I'm not going to have to guess so much with my slow brain. Okay, so let's rotate this all the way back. Not that one. This one. Do. Oh, I didn't parent it. What? Come on. Forearm should be parented to the arm. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go -90. We should technically go a little bit higher because there are going to be moments when the arm could be up like this, especially in dramatic scenes. So let's try -130, like if he's jumping and he's got some kind of crazy like flying down move. So let's just try this. This could turn out to be total garbage, but we want to try it anyway. It's a little bit cleaner at 90, but this would just limit the amount of flipping that we would have to manually key out, right? So let's create a new solid. We'll call this, I don't know, we'll call it a bone, I guess. Shoulder. LFT. Okay, that's fine. Oh, we should probably make it the complement of this terrific pink, which would be sort of a lime green of some kind. Wonderful. This looks so good. We're doing testing with style. Let's put that there. We're forgetting about a clavicle right now because the clavicle gets messy if you do this. It just makes a mess. We're also going to have to give up the dream of auto rigging this character, so we lose a bit of time that way. Bone, elbow. Bone, wrist. Or hand. We'll just call it hand. Great. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Now, let me just move this hand a little bit. Put it there more. Okay. I'm not sure. I have no idea how good or terrible this is going to look, but we're going to just do it anyway. Okay, let's just put that hand roughly there for now. Okay. I feel like we should maybe do this at the 90 degrees back. I mean, does it matter? I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll try this because, I mean, I should just stick to what we did because we tested it, but I'm going to just try this anyway. It's probably dumb, but we can always fall back. So let's just keep it simple with the pins for now. We'll do... mostly I want to watch the wrist. So if I just want to watch the wrist, I guess what I could do is just do the forearm, do pins on the forearm. So we'll do this one, and 2 on the wrist. Okay. And unfortunately, we have to name these. Okay. Wrist. LFT, FRNT. Okay, and then this will be, come on. It's BCK for back. Ugh. back. This will be forearm. Forearm, left, front. Last one. Forearm, left, back. Okay, BCK. All right, so we should just, everything else will just sort of parent. Is it? This is offensive. I'll tell Mr. Hengel, we are trying to find. I am trying to find a way where we can avoid the 360 0 flip that we're getting before by putting the arm in the worst, least unlikely animation position and starting the rig there, because it seems when you're doing an IK rig now in WIP, wherever you start the rig as your 0, right? So everything's at 0. If we go back from 0, we get into this negative, all this stuff flipping all over the place. If we go positive from 0, we kind of stay within the realm of reasonable numbers. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to see, and then we get messy as soon as we go back over here again. It'll just like do this big old flippy thing. So I'm trying to see if we can, if we start the rig in an awful position, will we have manageable numbers that don't flip when we're doing our actual IK rig? So it's kind of counterintuitive, but there you have it. So we're just seeing. This is just a pure test, trying to figure out if we can make this thing work. Let's add bones. Wonderful. And we'll parent them to these little guys here. Well, not, the different ones here. So this one will parent to the elbow. And the wrist, for now, will also, we'll have to make another wrist one. Actually, let's just do this. Wrist. This will be our wrist one. We'll scale this up to 200, and we will set the transparency to 50%. And to that one, we shall parent these two. So this will be our wrist. I'm hoping will be our soft wrist controller. So we have our hand. Hand should parent to the elbow. Elbow to the shoulder. And we just want to quickly double check and make sure we're doing things sort of right. Okay, great. And hand should, parent to the wrist. Wrist, parent to the elbow. No, sorry. Hand and wrist both parent to the elbow for now. There we go. It's a terrible puppet pin thing. We didn't double check this is what happens when you don't do your transparencies. You don't do your expansion on the thing enough. So you get this weird little chopping off thing. So I guess it's a good chance to see that. I'm going to save really quickly. And now I'm just going to parent these objects to their bones, so I don't have to worry about them being zeroed out or anything. So arm will be parented to the shoulder. Okay. And then the mitt will be parented to the I guess the hand. The hand. Yeah. Okay, so the wrist we're not throwing into the rigging equation. I should have left it out just because now it's going to be confusing for people. Now we want to create a controller. Boom. Create. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Spenrita, for throwing that in. It's so we can add additional expressions to things to make it a little more dynamic without trying to manage this flipping math. I was really trying to figure out how we could do this. I know it sounds complicated, but I'm trying to find the simplest solution. So if you just have to rig your character in these weird spots and then you have all this control of it after, that's great. But if we rig it normally and then we have to add a whole bunch of extra code to keep it under control. This is not tequila. But man, do you imagine? Oh, I wouldn't be able to remember anything by now. I do have a bottle of beer here that I haven't touched yet. Okay. Okay, so we have all our pieces. We're now ready to try rigging this thing. So let's go hand, elbow, shoulder. We're all parented up properly. That. I'm going to save. I probably should duplicate this comp just in case. This is the one we're doing? No, we want this one. I'm duplicating it for a backup. Just in case I do something stupid and I want to go back and fix it. I did touch it. I didn't drink it, though. I didn't drink it. Okay. Are you guys ready? Here we go. Let's give it a shot. IK, 2 layer, okay. Create. Nothing went crazy, which is nice. The joint is backwards, which is to be expected. Okay, no problem there. So we can bring it back around. We might want to turn off the goal, but ultimately we just have to rotate that back. So that's going to give us some high values, but we don't want to do any of our wrist rigging. At least this is my thought, until we get the hand back where we have it. And we'll see if these values hold together. Please don't get your hopes up. I'm really not getting mine up. I'm expecting to be disappointed. So we put this back before we start parenting things to anything. There. So we want it there. Let's see if we can make this work. Here's our wrist controller right there. And that is currently rotated at what? 0. And it's parented to the elbow. Okay, so we'll just leave it there, I guess. It's in a weird looking spot, but at least it's at 0. The hand is at -20. This hand is at 125. So the question is, do we want to parent it to the hand? Well, let's just see what happens. Remember, we have stretchiness. I don't usually use stretchiness. Oh man, thank you for joining us after your bike ride, Mr. Engel. That sounds lovely. 10-mile bike ride and now you're on rum and coke. That's the best night ever. Okay, so jealous of that night. That's a great night. Let's parent this. So right now I have it parented to the elbow, but I feel like if we want to take advantage of stretchy limbs, which I'm not going to, but I mean I might, but I usually don't. Only because I tend to go for really fairly realistic things. We might have to, though, because we might want to be able to do the collapsing thing. But so if we want to do that, we do need this wrist to be parented to this thing. We could probably zero it out like that. Oh, wait a minute. What did I do? Oh, no. Things are already parented to that wrist. Get off there. We have to get these guys off that wrist. None. Okay, I've just got to put that to 0 for now. And now we can parent these guys back. Okay, so this will be my soft wrist, okay? Then we have our hand, which will be driven by this thing. Right now we have a 1-to-1, okay? We're going to do this little bit of code that's nothing to see if we can not have it. So let's just see. First, I'll do a counter rotation to see if I can get rid of this. We're going to have to zero this out manually from its starting position. So I think I can just do this. Whoops. That's 20.8. Should start us in 0. I could be wrong. Okay, we're still 0. What happens? Okay, good. So we have 0 wrist rotation at the moment. I'm going to be shocked if this works, so please just... So we're subtracting this, and then we're going to multiply it by point... I don't know. Let's go point... We'll just half it. So now what we should have... Oops, wrong way. I guess we could go plus. That's a little weird, though. What am I doing wrong? I'm probably doing something really... So now we're exaggerating, right? I need to... I'm doing something dumb. We're trying to subtract. I always get confused on this because when we're subtracting the movement, it's actually zeroing it out. And then we're timesing it by... Oh, and I times it by 5. That's my problem. Let's try this again. This is probably still going the wrong way. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, so that's sort of working at the moment. Now let's see where it breaks. So far, so good. Oh, wait, we have to do one thing too. Sorry. We want to make sure the forearm is parented to the arm, which it is. So we don't get weird distortions or deformations. That's fine. So it should be okay. So I feel like the wrist is getting a bit weird here, but we have no flipping yet. No flipping yet. No flipping yet. That's a decent position. Thanks, Benrita. Maybe I am drinking tequila. No flipping yet. No flipping yet. This is giving me heart palpitations. There's the flip right there. But it's in a pretty extreme position. So, wait. Okay, so we don't have any flipping until the upper arm goes past 360 degrees, which is there. So that's when we get our flip. But nowhere else. So we're fine, we're fine. Everything's fine until the arm goes up past that point, and then we get a flip. So in my thinking, we could work around that problem unless that happened, unless something weird happened here. What happened here? Something weird happened there? There's a flip. Is that a flip? It might be a flip. Or it might just be bad rigging. Please just be bad rigging. Or is that a weird flip? Let's check our values here. I think it's just bad rigging. There's the flip. Okay. We can pretty clearly see when the flip happens, I think. Unless it's still there. What did I do? Did I wreck something? That looks okay. That looks okay. It gets kind of crunched up and weird here. I'm not quite sure why. What's her values doing? Seem okay. Unless I'm just getting really... No, the wrist looks okay. The hand looks okay. It might just be like a bad... Because it's so pushed over. It's just like stiffening. Let's stiffen it up and see if we can make it look good. Oh, this is stressing me out. It's making... Clearly it's not ideal. But let's just stiffen this forearm a bit. Extent. Thank you. It's way too much. Well, we'll stiffen the wrist for now and let the forearm be pretty rubbery. Let's see if this helps. So if this can work, which I'm still not getting my hopes up for, it's still deforming a little bit weird, but these pins haven't flipped. I don't think you know what? Actually, let's test it this way. Last thing, I hope we'll go like this, Control Shift Y, and we'll turn this bone blue. Okay. That's good. Okay, and then maybe we'll scale them up. Yeah, I'm going to cry too if this doesn't work. So let's just watch to see if the red and the blue flip anywhere. And then if they do, we know it's not going to work. If they don't, which they haven't done so far, even though the rigging looks ugly at the moment, there they flip. Extreme position, that's fine, but look, that's pretty extreme. We just have to avoid that one elbow up thing, and then we need to build like a switch in there that'll flip it back. So there's no flipping, no flipping, no flipping, no flipping. Red's on top, or sorry, red's on the bottom, blue's on top. We're okay, we're okay. I think it, I'm not going to say it if I say it. I've become superstitious. I'm not superstitious at all, and I'm becoming superstitious because of this dumb thing. Okay. I think we have no flipping. So there's no flipping. There's some things to figure out because the hand is auto rotating and zeroing out, so we're getting like some pretty extreme values going on here in the pins, and there's some distortions happening in it because of the way what it's parented to. But ultimately, it looks like it's holding together. Holy moly, what a mess that was. So essentially, it's holding together. It's getting weird because right now, if you just look at this, I'll tell you why it's looking so horrific. Forearm. See where the forearm is? That's why this looks so bad. That is the position of the forearm's composition. So I've got it parented to something stupid. 12 arm. Oh. I'm an idiot. That's the problem. That's the problem. So let's just do this. As soon as we straighten this out, so let's put this back somewhere decent and rotate that hand back to 0. Good God. It is a bit annoying because I mean, there's a bit, you know, I don't know. What do you do? There's going to be, you're going to have to remember that, oh, my wrist, when it's at 0, it's all the way up here. But that's okay. At least I think so, considering. And there's some pretty simple workarounds for that. So let's parent the forearm, shall we, to the actual elbow. That would be the better idea because then it's actually tracking to what the arm's doing, and now we won't get such wonky deformations. So let's just go down here. And now things should be a little more predictable. Pum, 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 pum. There you are. No, Colin, I'm 0.5 is not for sure where I'm going with. I'm gonna try. Okay, let's try. I feel like Colin, Harvey CG. I don't think it matters because I think where the problem happens is right here in the arm. Where is it? Or the shoulder, I guess. This is where I think this is where the problem happens because once this goes to 0 or 360, all of the math flips because it has to. It has to flip because everything else, it has to go, now that it's like moved into the 360 world, it needs to flip over. But it doesn't do that till we hit 360. So we're pulling a value of 0.5, like we're 0.5%ing out of 360 until we hit that number. Let me just try. We're going to do it right now. We're going to do it right now. Because you could be right. You know this stuff better than me in many ways. Okay, so let's just watch the red, the blue and the red. So blue is on top, red's in the bottom. So we're just going to move this around all over the place. So far, so good. Okay, and then we have a flip there. I'm just going to rotate that wrist. It hasn't flipped. It just looked stupid because it was so no living hand would ever do that. There, flip there. Again, I think it's at that position where the arm's all the way up. So this is where the math flips in the tangents of the IK solve, right? So the IK is taking, it's a 360 solve based on trying to find the hypotenuse out of this, like this angle specifically, and it technically you're right, like it should flip at 180, but it doesn't because we're operating in a 360 spectrum, so we can go all the way around and it's sort of holding together. But as soon as we hit 360, we don't. That's the problem. Is it's mostly After Effects, because the math, if the math actually went to 720 or went higher, and we didn't go to 1 and 5 degrees, if we went to 365 degrees instead, we wouldn't get a flip. But because we go to 1 and a number, then we get this weird flip. And because we can't keep going into the negatives, we go back to 0. It's just, I think that's the problem. So I think we're looking good now. I think we have to document this process, that if you want to do additive math on things, the arms and stuff like that, you have to do your IK all the way back up here. It's going to be annoying though, because that means even a leg is going to have to be rigged at a really weird angle. We'll have to rig the legs up in a stupid place as well, just so that we can get the IK functionality without a flip. Like if you want to do ankles, right? Like if you want to do softened rotations on ankles or something. So it's not ideal. And I can't think of a good way around it, because I was thinking, what if you could take a global rotation value? Because the reality is if you could take, if this object here rotation was whatever, 45 degrees, and you said this one was 0 no matter what, it wouldn't matter what this number was, and it just kept going. This was just 0, 10, whatever, and this one could be at like 65 degrees. This one wouldn't care. It's just relative. But the problem still comes when, what are you looking at? You're looking at this object that's 0 to 360, and then as soon as it goes over 360, it goes back to 0, and then 1 in... Anyways, I'm not quite sure. So what that means, though, is we have to rig legs, and we have to rig, if you want to do this kind of technique, you have to rig legs and arms in a really stupid position. What a pain in the butt. What would be nice, I don't know if it's possible, but it would be nice if you could take the IK clock, essentially. If you thought of the whole thing as there was a giant wheel on it, and the 0 point, if we could get something added in there where you could rotate the IK solve, like and we could just like literally adjust that without changing, you know what I'm saying? So like, right now everything's at 0, but if we could reset the 0 point, yeah, this is exactly what the problem we're having right now. So I wonder if another alternative would be like running rotation values into a slider. Because if you throw the number 720 at the rotation, it's still right. It's still there. Like the value. Well, let me just see. I feel like, let's just do this really quick. I'm just curious about something. If I run this and I put it to 720, we get 2 there. But the number is still 720. But I wonder if we do this, take this rotation, and I reference that, what do I get? We get 2, but I wonder if it's still seeing 720. I don't know. It's more that it's for us. I think it's more when the IK solve has to reset to 0. Because remember, I jacked the number of the IK limit from 360 to 720, and all it did was add extra rotations. But we still had to flip once we went into the negatives in the other way. So what we essentially need to have in the IK tool system is an ability to rotate the IK clock. So we can essentially go, instead of this angle way up here being 0, if we started our rig here, that wouldn't be 0 anymore. We could rotate the global IK solve back to here without changing the position of these guys. That would be amazing. Then we could pick where it breaks. And I'm just not sure, because my head is not, I am not a mathematician, and I certainly don't know hardly anything about anything. I don't know where that happens. Because if we're... It's just hard to say where the IK starts, right? I just don't... So we're getting world position, layer length. That all makes sense. So all this stuff is figuring out the angles of the different parts of the triangle. I don't know. I don't know enough about the math of IK to... I wonder though... The IK limit is 360. I wonder if you just... I'm just curious. This is probably not going to do anything. I'm just curious. What happens if you drop it? What does it do? Right. So the IK flips back around after 180 degrees. How could we, in the math, offset the starting point of the IK? That would be interesting to know. How could we change? Because it's functioning based on position. It's not looking at angle of layers. The rotation is... Oh, well, maybe it is looking at the angle of the layers. Because it's on rotation. I don't know. Something we'll have to do because I don't understand it very well. Okay, so the position is to do with the stretching. But the actual IK... Anyways, maybe I'll email the Do It guys and see if there's anything we can do about this. Because there's got to be a way to do that. Anyways, sorry, I'm rambling on. So we solved the problem in one way. It's solved. So we have to rig things at a funky angle if you want to not have an IK flip happen until you're up here somewhere. So as long as you're within the 360 degree spectrum, you're not going to get a flip. But as soon as you move over that at the arm's root point, you're going to get a flip. So that's the new rule of life in rigging and After Effects with DUIC for now, until we can figure out something else. Yeah, the legs... That's the problem, Spunrita. The legs will have to do the same exact thing, because otherwise, yeah, I'm gonna write Rainbox and give them a shout and see if there's anything we can do about that. Even if there's something we could just add into that, or if there was just some kind of slider or rotator, we could use the adjust IK and rotate a global IK angle. If we could throw that in there, that would fix our problem. But yeah, right now, from what we've run into, we would have to... So for Spunrita, we will have to rig the legs. They don't have to be straight up in the air. I mean, that would be your safest bet for sure. You'd have to just go to the extreme where they probably would never be, which the limit on a leg is typically between here and... Well, it could go... Actually, I wouldn't do straight up in the air, because a leg for like some crazy move, you could have your leg... Well, let's just flip this and pretend it's a leg. You could have your knee go all the way up here, right? So if your knee was up here and your character was like doing some crazy thing, you'd get your flip here. So I think you'd probably want to rig your leg back like that. Roughly the same angle we've rigged the arm, because the leg, even if you're doing a crazy run, your leg would only go about that far back. Even if it's exaggerated run, you'd probably go to there. And then if you're doing a jump, like a crazy move, your knee wouldn't go much past here. Otherwise, you're really looking at someone with incredible flexibility. And then on top of that, you could always rotate your hip if you wanted to push that further. If the head rigged upside down, let's just, we should just do that for everything. You could technically, we just rig the characters at a weird angle, the whole thing, and then we just rotate them globally. No, we can't because it's relative. You can't because it's in relation to it. So no, it doesn't work that way. We're really just stuck at the moment. We have to rig with a backwards arm. It's kind of a bummer, but I'm glad we figured this out. I'm glad we all went through this. I want to thank everybody for their help on this one because I know it was totally nuts. Colin Harvey has thrown some brilliant ideas out there to make this thing happen. And thanks a lot for that. That's super cool of you. So I guess we know what we have to do now. So I'm definitely going to write Rainbox and see what they think. I don't really know them. I know they've used a clip of some of our stuff in one of their reels once, back in the day. So I'll see if I can write them and anything will happen. It's doubtful. I don't know. They don't have to answer to me at all. So, but I'll see what they say. I'll write them and see what they say. Because basically, if we had a rotator for that, we would be done. And we would just have to do that on the IK solve. And it would be the equivalent of this flip thing, but you just rotate the IK. So I'm going to talk to them. I will write them tomorrow and see if I can get a hold of them somehow. That would be super sweet if we could do that. I don't know if it's reasonable. There was one other thing. I was taking a look just since we're in this ring. I don't know how much. We have a half hour left to do this, but so I guess I could rig some more of the body and stuff. We could try the auto rig. I'm not sure actually. If we do auto rig, what's going to happen if with the clavicle if the arm's rigged all the way up there? Because the clavicle got really funky. So maybe that's just something to just quickly double check and see if we can resolve that problem. But one thing I wanted to bring up is I was checking out that spine program, and I saw something that was really, you guys probably already know about it, but I was trying to understand it better, because a lot of people are using it for some stuff, and I saw some cool examples. I'm just going to go back here really quickly. I saw some sweet examples. I think this one this was pretty decent. But I was watching how they lay out their paths and how they lay out their deformers. And it's one of the problems with the puppet tool is how the puppet tool kind of creates like a piece of cloth essentially with pins in it. This thing creates meshes. Or a version of a mesh. They're more like deformers, right? So when you put a line, I don't know if you guys have used this program at all, but when you basically, when you draw a line, see if this one, I think this one showed it a little bit better how it worked. But essentially you draw a line down the body and you set up these deform grids. And I was thinking that could exist in After Effects. It kind of does. There is something in After Effects that does, the mesh warp. You guys will already obviously know of the mesh warp. Oh, Spunrita, that'd be cool. That'd be cool of you if you want to reach out to him as well. So I'm totally open to. I'll write them as well. I mean, any of us could probably just do that and see if they're down for helping out. Oh, geez, sorry, my camera's all blown out for some reason. But that's okay. It doesn't really matter. It's just sometimes it has these auto features that turn back on for some reason. Okay. So what happens? So I was just brainstorming, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because we sort of solved one problem. I just wanted to, sorry, I'm jumping all over. I'm talking about Spine, the program Spine. And what I was thinking is there may be a way to, I'm just going to make a new file here really quick. Create new. I'm just making I'll make a 1200 by 1200. just for the sake of example. So from what I can understand, and anyone can correct me if I'm totally off base here, but when you have in the spiner program, I'm just going to do this, and I'll make another one. So this is like a forearm or something. And then I'll do a hand thing, whatever. This is not meant to be anything but just a test. Okay, so in the spine program, I was watching how they were doing everything. Let's just go here. We'll just grab a good drawing brush. Great. Well, that's a terrible drawing brush for these examples. Something like a pen. Pen, please. To be pencil. No, that's terrible too. I'm sorry, guys. I should have something like really fast and just do inking. Great. Okay. So what happens is you set up these paths. So like on this object here, right? It'll get an automatic kind of grid shape around it, right? The arm. And then what you can do is you can draw a path on it, and then you can create basically a grid. And you can create the grid. And this is the equivalent of 3D of edge loops. And this is why I use like Maya and stuff like that. But then what you can do is you can take these points and you can actually keyframe them. So if I wanted to make this arm look like it was like rotating a bit, what I can do is I can keyframe these points. I can grab these points and just drag them up here a little bit, keyframe that, and then I can grab these points and then just modify them slightly to make it look like the arms changed a little bit. So maybe fatten one out here and thin one out here. The problem with spine is that from what I can tell is you can't connect any of this stuff to code that I'm aware of. And I think Colin Harvey might have mentioned that you can't either. I haven't found anything. Yeah, it's like mesh warp, but the thing that mesh warp doesn't do is you can't create an angle, right? So let's say you have someone's face. We'll just turn this off for a second. We'll just draw like a face. Well, beautiful face. Okay. So let's say you have a face. It's a lovely, amazing face I drew. The thing you can't do with mesh warp, or you can sort of do it, but what you do is you get with the mesh warp is you just get a grid, right? And the problem with a grid is it doesn't necessarily line up with what you want. What you do in spine is you get this. You get this path around here. And then you can do this. Before you deform anything, you can set up a line here. I mean, you can set this point up. So you set this point, you get 2. But then the more of these you set up, the more you can start manipulating the path. So eventually, you can get something more like this. So you get this, like, you can create this before you've deformed anything, right? And you could even go so far as to like add more and, do all kinds of stuff. So then what you can do, and then you can draw another one here. So now what you can do is you can isolate certain regions of the face or whatever and keyframe these or put bones on them and move them around, right? So you could grab these two and this two to control the eyes. I mean, and then if you want to grab the nose and move it around, you've got this whole thing that follows the bridge of the nose. So you could keyframe this, this, and this. And if you keyframe them at slightly different speeds, yeah, I use mesh warp for heads too. But it would be better if mesh warp wasn't a solid grid and you could actually create what do they call them in 3D? They're called edge loops. So what I would do in 3D is I would model this. I would do my geometry so it went like this. I would literally model it and I would pick, okay, so the eyebrows are along here, then the eyes are here and here, and I would literally build the geometry so it was warped like this. And I'd make sure I would have one here and one here. And so once you've done something like this, you can that's Colin Harvey. This is what I wanted to talk to you about. I wanted to ask you about this. And if you have something like this and you can literally keyframe these points, and instead of using the puppet tool, because the puppet tool, it creates geometry, but what it does is it creates a giant triangulated mess, right? And the problem with that is the triangles aren't soft. They're not, the triangles actually aren't that mushy. So you can't, if you push them, a whole bunch of other stuff happens and they don't necessarily bend the way you want them to. That's where that program Bones that they have for After Effects is a little bit better in some ways because I can choose, unlike the puppet tool, where it just creates a giant triangulated mess wherever my solid is, I can choose where my deformations would happen. So if I pull this corner up, that's going to push on this, and it's also going to push on here, but I could create, essentially, let's say if I added a little more detail, and this is just like in 3D, is you would create an edge loop that sort of did that. So that means if you pulled this corner up and over, you'd get a more naturalistic deformation along the mouth. You could, so that kind of, that whole concept actually would creates better animation. That means you can grab this point here and you can pull it up, or you could create almost circular geometry around these characters. There's a similar technique that's actually used for a reflex morph plugin, I think they use. And what you can do with them is you can literally draw paths, and those paths become sort of like shape deformers that will push things around. So if you take those paths and then the next one that you did, that if it was orange or something, I'll just do it as orange, whatever. But then if you took those paths and you made a version like this and this, it would kind of do the equivalent of it. It's just a little, like, you know, and you went like this, you could deform the face like that. It's a super expensive plugin. That's really cool, Colin Harvey. I think that's cool. I think that's something I was trying to look at. I'm trying to think of a way. I was trying to think of a way that we could build something. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. So, sorry, I'm answering Spunrita's question. I was in the middle of answering Colin Harvey's. That's what I was thinking, is if you could then have the ability to control that mesh where you're assigning bones to it, just like you do with the puppet tool, where you can say at all of these vertice intersections, you can basically pick one. So let's say I just clicked it with my mouse, clicked them, and I selected them, sort of like what you do with the mesh warp tool, and I said assign controllers to that, and they became little null objects or solids that you could then control, because then that would give us the coding aspect, which is missing in Spine because you have to sort of manually animate and push the things around a little bit. So one of the things I was thinking, and I'm not sure if it's possible, is to actually find a way to, like Colin Harvey, it sounds like you're doing something with displacement maps, which sounds really amazing. And that might be the solution. And then this would be a way of, for me, this would be a way of defining a grid, a shaped grid that becomes your zero. So you basically would draw your grid the way you want it. And you'd eliminate that puppet tool problem where you can't define a joint. So if you had, well, let's do something like an arm really quick. If you had an arm like this is somebody's arm and their hand. The problem in the puppet tool is if you want to create a sharp elbow bend, you don't have the capacity to do that. You have to set up a whole bunch of starch pins and stuff like that because your mesh is literally just this whole mess of triangles. So what you do in 3D is I could literally break the polygon there, add one here, add one there, and then here, 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 and then there, and whatever. And that's all I would need. These could be just giant squares. It doesn't matter. So then what happens is when I bend the arm, this is where the arm bends, right at this point here. So this is where the collapsing happens. So I can define where that collapse happens. and I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. Like I don't have to go in and try to solidify it or anything like that. It's just I've got this one hard point. And that program Bones, that plugin Bones, you get it on AE scripts. That kind of does this. Is you can set the area from which that bends, and you can kind of expand it or expand it or collapse it. And what I think would be amazing, and that's the spine takes it to the next level, because now not only do I have this, but then I can add this. And this runs all the way through the middle of the whole thing. And now I can push this line around and animate that line, so ultimately faking rotation. So it was something I wanted to look at. Colin Harvey, you're doing displacement map blend shapes. I'm curious if we can also create a mesh warper that actually, where you can define not just the orientation of the grid, but the starting point of the grid. And it's a spline-based deformer. That would be a lot more like what spine is. And not to take away what spine can do. Spine's largely focused in gaming, but if we could capture some of that and build something like that, it's something I'm just throwing it out there. The displacement map thing sounds really promising. I'd be interested to hear more about that. Colin Harvey CG, that sounds really cool. Anyways, that's kind of something I thought that's actually largely where one of the problems is. I guess since we only have a few minutes left, one thing I guess I can show you is one I think I've demoed it before, but another way to do head turns, I'm just going to grab something in really quick. Because I'm not going to get back to rigging this guy up until I'll come back and do it at the next. Now that we figured the problem, I have to sort of rethink the layout for the rig before I get into that. But I just want to grab something really quick. Just bear with me for 1 second. Not sure if I have one. Oh, well, I guess we can just make one. Let's just make something really quick here. Let's delete all these layers. I'm going to make just like a solid layer here. This is going to look so terrible. I guess I could just find a picture on the web, actually. Let's just do that, because otherwise I'm going to waste time drawing stuff on you guys. And then Mr. Hengel, I'm going to answer your question. Oh, wait. Colin Harvey said something too. Oh, no. Wait. There's lots of questions that just happened. I'm just going to go through them really quick. Okay. Colin Harvey's right. It would take going into the C++ stuff of things. But you can't import your rigs. That's true. Yeah. So yeah, if you wanted to work with spine, you would definitely have to kind of plan out what you're gonna do. I'm just seeing if I can find a face really quick, because I just wanted to show a thing. Face. No, not Facebook. We just want portrait. We'll look up portrait. Portrait. Images. Of course not. Okay, guys, just bear with me 1 second. I'm just grabbing something really quickly. Okay, and I'm just going to import it in, because drawing something is slow. But I guess I'm curious, because I think like we have access to, one of the reasons I sort of brought this up and I'm thinking about it is I do have access to really like C# programmers and things like that, and I wanted to see if it's possible to build something like that. I'm kind of curious about it because it would really simplify things. And it would make it a lot easier to do animation in After Effects that looked really good. Oh, for heaven's sakes, for real? Just give me a sec here. I'm just trying to pull this up. I'll be 1 second. Desktop. Here we go. Okay, I just wanted to show you really one quick thing. I hope this person won't be bothered by the fact that we're taking him. So one of the things I've done, because you can't use like mesh warp. It can work really good, but it's very limited depending on the shape of the face. I'll show you this really quick. I used to try, and I have done to varying levels of success. I've used the puppet tool on people's faces, and it can work. But like I was saying earlier, the puppet tool is kind of a monster because as soon as you start you have no control over this mesh. So as you can see, if you want to just move the nose, trying to get the triangle point right where you want it is really hard. So you can see where it's shifting the most at that vertice there. So you really have to change, you have to play with stuff, moving the numbers around, trying to get this thing to work right. And what you'd really want is 2 lines along the bridge of the nose so that you could move it around a lot better. So, and I mean, then at least you can code these things. So something I've demonstrated before in for head rotations, mesh warp, that's great. And then also the liquefy tool. So if you just go to liquefy here, there's probably other better ways too. I like liquefy because I can work in comp too. So if you take this, let's turn it some warp tool options. Put the brush pressure to 100. You can freeze mask. I guess that's pretty sweet. Liquefy, come back. Where are you? We lost the liquefy tool. Why did I lose that? There. Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. All right, so now you could essentially, it's really tedious though, but you could take a head, and I mean you have to really adjust things and really play with it, but you can essentially reposition a head in some ways using this. It's definitely not the best solution. But then what you can do, once you've sort of rejigged this face a little bit, it's not going to look good for a bit here, guys. Oh no, look what's happened to him. I know I'm doing a terrible, terrible job here. I'm sure all of you can see where this is going. Pulling this out more, and I want his ear to come out a bit more. This is essentially what spine stuff tends to start looking like. You have very limited how far you can actually go with things before it breaks down. If you were to do an illustrated character like this, I would just make the edges of the character kind of fatter, so everything sort of stuck out a little bit. So I've done this before a few times. Yeah, I did have a tutorial on this. So now, I know it looks horrible, but now what you can do is just start playing with this until you get the feeling you're looking for. So I'm collapsing his eye in too much, so I can fix that. Okay. And this is usually what I do, is I'll just go back and forth until I'm getting the shift that feels more natural. So that eye's now shooting way too far out. Bring it back in. And then crush the head. I think the tutorial I did was pretty subtle. Because, I tend to oh no, can I undo? Yes, I can. I tend to lean on the side of subtlety with this kind of stuff. However, it's not necessary. You can go pretty extreme. So basically, jump back and forth until you start getting what you want. Obviously it's far from ideal, but it is one way to if we had the ability to do the lines, the lines, it would be pretty amazing. There's one other guy. Oh, it's so you're playing with you keyform the distortion mesh so you can get more than one movement. Yeah, you know what else you can do? Oh, that's interesting. Playing with the actual distortion mesh. Why isn't my computer working? It's like all of a sudden. Oh, there it is. Interesting. I never thought to do that. Now I can't see anything. Nothing's happening. You key this thing. That's interesting. I'm not seeing my computer's stuff. Oh, it's because it's playing. Whoops. Interesting. What does that do? Oh, it's the offset. Weird. What does this do? Well, like, what do you do when you keyframe it? Because I don't see any numbers. Distortion mesh. Do you just like turn it on and off, or what does distortion mesh do? Oh, wait a minute. Can you paint like a new mesh, and then it will like make a key? Cool. That's smart. That's really cool. Now, what do you do if you want more than one? Because sometimes I like to have, let's just put this back to 0 because he kind of looks freaky. Sometimes I like to have more than one. Well, let's not do that. Let's just, if we go like, yeah, I guess we can duplicate it and then reset it. Sometimes I like to, if I have more than one, I would like to be able to stack them on top of each other, you know? Actually, let's do this. Let's see what happens. I'm going to furrow his brow. Well, I'll make him look more angry without squashing his eye. It may not be possible. Kind of an angry guy at the moment. Don't mess with me, man. So I'm just going to see if I stack this and then do this. It sort of does something weird. Can't quite get away with it because it's only doing it in that one region. Unless I wonder, what if we did this first? Just change the order. I guess if you did pre-comps, you could also do that too. So now we've stacked angry eyebrows on head turny guy. Hey man, don't mess with my children, dude. So there's this guy. Since we're just, I'm gonna just find this really quick. There's this guy that did this animation. I think it's on Vimeo. I'm just gonna look it up really quick. It's called like, what was it called? He did it in After Effects. I talked to him so long ago. It was called Trig something. I don't know if you guys Adventures of Trig something. Of Trig Tone maybe. It was so long ago. And it was an After Effects animation. Oh, I wonder if I could find it. It was the weirdest name. And this guy was doing the craziest stuff with facial animation in After Effects. What was his name? Oh, I wish I could find it. It might not even be around anymore. I thought it was Trigtone or something. Animation. I have no idea. Why can't I find it? Sorry, guys. That sucks. Using Reflex. The program's called Reflex. And it was actually really cool. Sorry, guys. This is just like kind of I suppose, a waste of products. There's this one called Reflex. Using this one. I think. Intuitive morphing. This stuff. Sorry, I know you can't see my webpage. I'm pulling it down right now. So it was on this one. It was the Reflex plugin for After Effects. And did some really cool facial animation with it. And I don't know. I don't know where. This is done using it too, on the face. So it's a really cool. It's like a morphing program, and if you can set up. Okay, so it's just repeating. I just want to find. I gotta find this trick tone animation because he did some really cool stuff, and it was using this. Like all, it was using this thing, and it's a relatively old program. I don't know. Let's see. This is just pretty typical morphing. Nothing special there. I wish I could find it. I don't know. I'm surprised they never. I'm really surprised they never took that guy's animations and just started hawking it everywhere to just tell them to say how awesome it was. Just bear with me for a few more minutes. I swear to God, it was called Trick Tone and it was on Vimeo, but it was so long ago it may not exist anymore. I just want to get myself logged in here. Just bear with me for 1 second. I'm looking for it. Ugh, I can't log in because I don't know my password at the moment. Trio. I'm about to get locked out permanently because I've tried so many passwords again. I can't get into it. That sucks. I really wanted to show you guys this thing. I can't seem to find it because I'm not sure. I had it in my favorites at one time. That's a bummer. I wish I could find it. It doesn't look like that guy ever ended up doing tutorials or anything on it. So anyways, you guys see like the potential is like when you work with it, if you watch the way it actually works, there's some good tutorials on it. You can do faces. You can do some pretty incredible facial animation, especially if you're blending with between paintings and things like that. So anyways, it's a really interesting tool. Kind of a bummer that I can't find that guy's thing because it was crazy. And I wish I could find the thing. It's in my likes on Vimeo, but of course I can't log into it because I don't know my account right now, which sometimes happens when you're working in a company that's more than one person. Bum, 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 bum. I can't seem to find this. It's really, this is so annoying. It's always when you want something, you know? You login details. Okay, not gonna happen. Sorry guys, that sucks. I'm frustrated. I can't find this trig tone guy. It's making me so frustrated. And I can't log into my thing because I don't know my password. So many passwords. It's like crazy pants. I don't even know anymore. Sorry guys. I just really want to find this thing. Okay, so this, I'm sure you guys are looking at this terrible screen. It's like, what's the point? Why am I looking at this thing? I suppose like one other thing you can do for 3D heads, one last thing I'll just throw out there is it's a little bit, it's I don't know, it's totally a cheat. It doesn't, I've used it before too. This is if you're not going to go with something like the metal. You can use this thing here. I guess the lens. And then you go, it messes with the head's shape, But what you need to do is when you design your character, you make sure that head is just a little bit of a weird shape to begin with. And then what you can animate is the center point. So you can use that to sort of like look the head around a little bit. And then once you've mixed that, so if you take this and you mix it with the liquefy effect, and you were to pair them together with this thing, this distortion percentage thing, and then you pair it with this guy there, that center point thing. Whoops. Center. Come on. Then you can start getting pretty crazy. Like you definitely get some structure coming out of it. I imagine Colin Harvey CG's plugin will be better than that, because that's another thing I've done before is I've gotten rid of used to use the metal plugin, and I would create a displacement map using lights and darks, and then I would just push that around that way. So are you serious? Did I totally miss it? Oh man, there was somebody there on that page. Okay, just give me one more second. I just want to look for this thing. I know I'm wasting everyone's time, and it's so annoying to like listen to somebody ramble on. And where is it? It's amazing. It's gonna just and it was done years ago. It was probably like 2011, maybe 2012. Okay. I'm gonna find this. I'm gonna find this. Just check one last thing, because someone just emailed me the other day about me getting into my thing. Okay, and then we're gonna just look here. So the film is about, it's just like it's about a night or something like that. This isn't gonna work. I'm looking up Trig now, and there's like animation. I can't find it. I can't even find it. I'm so frustrated. Makes me miserable in my guts. No, that's okay. You know what? I don't even know. Maybe he might have even taken it down by now. It was so long ago. Trig, tone, animation. I guess we could just do a search for like character animation, After Effects. I wonder if he said whether he did it in After Effects or not. Oh no. Well, it's a bunch of my videos. Come on, man. Where's your thing? Jeez, not many people do character animation in After Effects, it seems. Or at least they don't put that in their labeling. If I could just go through my like list, I would find it. Well, this isn't going to happen. You know what? Okay, so for the next time we come on, I'm going to find it. Well, that wolf looks cool. We're going to find it, and then I'll show you, because it's pretty amazing. Anyways, might give some good ideas about potential. Oh, that thing looks mental. Oh, that's a 3D stuff. Okay, sorry guys. All right, I'm totally off. You know what? The problem, yeah, I'm just going to answer Mr. Hengel's question. It's really hard to make body turns. It's super, super, super hard to make body turns in After Effects. There's not really, if you want to do that kind of stuff, I would suggest really simplifying your characters, because the more simple the character is, the more you can really, really cheat things. So if you have characters that are just like really flat colors, I've never heard of Van Gogh rig. I want to see what that is. Can you throw a link if you have a link for Van Gogh rig? I've never ever heard of it. But if you are doing characters in After Effects and you want them to look really 3D, my main suggestion is just go with flat color shapes. So if you just have like big flat colors, you can cheat super well. You can cheat anything and it'll look good. Like if you have a character that's like this and that's their this. Oops. You can do faces really easy. So if you have like a nose, and then we'll do like if you did a bunch of head layers. I actually did a demo of that, sort of, when I was doing the project for Let There Be Light. And then we'll have cheek layers, one cheek and two cheek. And then let's say you had two eyes. This eye. I know this is horrible, but and this eye. I'm just going to show you. You can really quickly. I'm not going to go into After Effects specifically. There's no need to demo this idea. But so if you have, of course I drew the wrong pupil on the wrong, and now I'm about to do it there. Good. Okay, so we have this little Ernie character. Never heard of this thing. I'm checking it out right now. Mango. Free character rig for After Effects. Check this out. Cool. Someone gave a free rig? That's rad. I want to start giving out free rigs. Cool. I bet you could learn a lot from pulling this thing apart. Oh, they're swapping through eyelid positions. Cool. This is a lot like what you do in 3D. Cool. Yeah, this is like having a bunch of nested art comps. They're probably nested compositions and you're sort of flipping through them. I would be curious if they have body bending, like torso bending, because that's where things get really, really tricky. And I was doing that in the Rocket Randy guy, which was really tricky. Is if you if you use puppet pins to bend the torso, what has to happen is, because in this one, what you're doing is you're taking a torso and you're swapping out a torso drawing. So you have one drawing, and once again, I'm not going to be able to. This is good line brush. No. I need to put a really fast drawing brush somewhere so it's not so hard to do. Basically, what I was going to get at is that if you have a body and it's just like a nested comp, but the body doesn't bend. So if this is the belt, whatever, you're totally fine because you can swap between this front body piece, like these are the buttons on the front, and then you can turn the body, and all you have to really do, what you're really doing then is like repositioning arm pins, but the arms don't change. So if the arms have like IK on them or something, it doesn't matter where they're positioned because they're always going to be kind of anchored in the same place. The thing that gets really hard is if you start bending the body, right? So if you take this body and now you want to bend it, so from the side or from the 3/4, it's kind of like this, right? And like, let's see, you've added like puppet pins or something in there. Now you've bent it, but what does that look like from the front? Well, that actually looks more like something like this from the front. You've got this, you're going to have sort of this wrinkle here, and you're going to have these buttons here from the front, and then this. So now what happens is your front can't be bent. Like, so whatever you had on these puppet pins or whatever you're doing to actually bend this, they have to not be doing that in the front one. You have to offset them. So then you start getting really, really, really complicated as far as what your puppet pin setup is. And that's the same thing here, is if you want to do the opposite body side, you basically have to have a nested comp that says each torso would have to, so this is your front torso, you would have 1 pin, 2 pin, 3 pin. Your side torso or 3/4 would have the same thing, 1 pin, 2 pin, 3 pin. And what you'd have to set up, which I've done before, it can be very time consuming, and this is like your total side. So it's getting hard to illustrate here, and this is your total side. If the body bends, like if from the side you bend these ones and you get this kind of a curve, then you have to say to these pins, only do this curve. And then these pins, you have to just make them go down, up, like they have to come to crunch together a little bit. So essentially, when you're adjusting the curve, the body curve value, like if you're using a slider or something, and the slider goes from 0 to 10 or something, and as you bring this up, when you're doing the arc forward, on the side puppet, it changes the angle of these guys to make it do this. On this puppet, you're actually changing translation values and moving things up and down. So you have to have a different setup of different equations for each angle of the body that are affected by the same slider. And then it gets a little bit more hairy too, because now you're changing the size of the actual torso. So now if you have a head attached to that, or a neck, as this body's bending in any of these circumstances, that head also has to move down. So you have to translate the neck joints and the head position in this angle. But if you turn the torso, you also now have to like reaccount for the neck and the head. So that's all got to move over. You know what I'm saying? It gets crazy, and it's possible. I've done it. It's possible, and that's one of the reasons I stopped the Rocket Randy tutorial. I still intend to finish it because it does work, but it gets so hairy, and that's like I ran out of time, and I had a kid and everything like that, so it made it really hard to break down all these different combinations. And it's like when you're coding, you're at first you're like, oh, this isn't so hard. This is a simple concept. I just do that, that, and that. But then you forget now is, well, now I have to move my shoulders because my arm's here. Now that this is coming down, my shoulders have to play into the math. And then also now they like move forward and over here. And then if I'm on the side puppet, my shoulders need to be over here. And so you have a different equation for each body part, right? So you have to basically say on the shoulder joint, if we're in 0, which is front position, you're here. If you're in 3, which is here, this is your new position. And if you're over here, and you have to do that for everything. So then whatever your controller is for the hand, that also has to move. It's just like, it's insane. You end up having like an exponential number of variables and controls for every single angle just because you decided to bend the torso. So something like, and I mean, I could be wrong. Someone could have figured this out, but something like this guy, they're not really bending the torso. They're just you might bend, like rotate it forward a little bit, but that's probably universal on every one. So you'd probably have the same rotation depending on whether it's front or whatever. So if you had the torso and it was rotated like tilting this way, it would tilt that way even if you were in the front. I was trying to do something that if you were tilted forward, that if you then rotated the torso, it would actually be like a rotated object that you're turning. And then once you get to that level of mucking around to try to make a puppet work, you're just better off in 3D at that point. You've just gone so far, and there's so much work to try to make this thing do what you're asking it to do that you might as well just go into 3D or start drawing it. Or the other alternative, which I was just going to show you here, is you create these really basic shapes, and those shapes help create new face shapes, right? So you can take these kind of faces, and if you want to do a head turn, you have these two little cheeks here. And as long as you're using solid colors, and I'll show you something else too. Let me just do something else really quick. Because anything you do in Photoshop, you can basically do in After Effects. If I just do a layer style on this guy, which you can do, this is the same thing as that you do in a nested composition. So let's just create like a bevel. We'll make it super big. Give him this sort of like a 3D look. Sorry guys, I know this is a total diversion, but I just got so like beat up by the last thing we did. Okay, so we've got this guy. I've given him a little bit of a 3D-ness to him. See? We can even, I think we could add a rim light if we did like a second 3D. I don't know if you can do that actually in this program. It's really nice in After Effects. You can stack bevels and you can get a nice rim light. But anyways, so now what you can do with this kind of idea is when you're in After Effects, you can animate the positions of these pieces, right? So if we want to change the head shape to more of a profile, we can take the nose, move it to the side, We can take one eye. We can take one eye over here and move another eye over here and actually drop it behind the nose. So you can change your layer orders. And if you're doing it in 3D, which is really good, you can have depth swapping. So that's never a problem. But so I've just moved this cheek over here. And I moved this cheek, can come over here, or like come in a little bit. And then if you really are smart about it, you can have two head layers and just scale one down like this or whatever. It doesn't have to be scaled down. And then you just make it go like that. And then you can have another one. So then what you can really start getting a lot of interesting work out of this, because then if we want to go total profile, well, then what you do is once the head's rotated, you can even start changing the scale of some of these guys. So you can do this stuff in real time in After Effects, and I definitely want to demo this one day because it's pretty basic and it's pretty powerful. But you can move this guys over. So now we want to go profile. You basically pull your nose all the way out here, and maybe you let's say it's more of an oval nose, so you scale it down a little bit. And then your eyes, if you put your eyes on a 3D layer, you can actually just rotate them and they get flatter or they move over. Or you could just, put a little squashing expression in there to make them get smaller. But essentially, I know I'm doing this in Photoshop, but I just thought, it's pretty much the same process. Maybe it's something we can demo. But essentially, you can do something like that with all these little layers. Well, you don't need to use a squash expression. You could just use a rotate. Actually, you know what? Let's just do this really quick. Maybe if you guys want to bear with me, I'll just show you really quickly. We probably don't need to do something from Photoshop. We can probably just do it right in After Effects. Why not? Who needs to go to bed, right? I'm just going to... Oh, cool. Spunrita, can I show this to people if I open this? Cool. Yeah, Spunrita did the exact thing. Just let me know if we can show people this, because this is super rad. I'm going to do a direct download. Okay, you just let me know if I can show people. Just in case people don't want to click on the link because they're paranoid or something. I don't know. Oh, it's still downloading. But it's coming in. No, it's not. This is something else. That's me backing up files. Cool, thank you. I'm going to show it. This is really cool. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So you have a bunch of layers, and based on how you reconfigure the positioning of those layers, you can create a lot of extra depth. And Spunrita, you weren't using 3D on this one? Yeah, you can like squash them and stuff like that. One thing, that looks really great. That's really wonderful work. And those characters are super cute. That's really, really lovely. Nice job. Is it just repeating over and over? Or am I was worried I wasn't getting to the end of it. Really, really nice work there. That's really, really nice. I really like that. I'm curious if you have tried. I'm just going to do something really quick here. I mean, I'm saying quick, but is it ever quick? I don't know. Let's just go 2000 by 2000. Okay, we'll go here. And I'm just going to create some really quick. I guess I could just use layer shapes, I suppose. I'm always nervous about using layer shapes because sometimes they just do weird stuff or you can't subtract from them really nicely. I'm curious where the anchor point. So yeah, then you get the weird anchor point stuff, which is kind of annoying. I like layer shapes, but I've definitely found that sometimes they're just like I don't know. I sometimes find them really annoying, and I can't always like subtract from them really well. If you guys know anything about layer shapes, which you probably do, sometimes I find them a little bit annoying. So let's just go back to this like orange dude, or androgynous character, definitely. Okay, so we'll just do this. We'll call this head, and then we'll do another one. New shape layer. What is the command for that? There's not one. So this one will just do these ovally little eye things, and that one will make white. That would end up being a nested comp, I suppose, to like say, oh, that's the annoying thing is like I can reposition this. There we go. Okay, so that's one eye. I'm just gonna I'll make one eye and I'll make that a nested comp. Let's see if that works. I, LFT or RT. What does it do as a nested comp? Yeah, that's annoying. I hate how that happens. So let's just go 200 by 200. No idea how big it's supposed to be. I don't like having comps that are really massive when the thing inside of them is really small. It actually aggravates me. Plus, rigging up eyes, if you don't have a small comp, can be really, really hard. So we'll make a new shape layer. Bonk. And this one I'll just make a little pupil. And that will make black. And I don't know why that has like a... Is that a stroke on that one? There should be 0 stroke on there. I mean, I guess I could have a stroke on it if I wanted it to make it look like a character with colored eye. There we go. Stroke. Now he's got a little eye. And I'm just going to duplicate the eye for now. I'm pressing, oh no. I usually would do 2 eyes, so then we would have like a left and a right, LFT. And because the character's looking at us, this is the right eye. Duplicate this and move this one over here, and then I can just alt click and drag that there. I'm going to keep this pretty simple, I'm just thinking. I'm duplicating this, and I'll just change this, the contents here. Just shrink that. I'll turn that into a bit of a cheek shape or something. There we go. Nice cheek. It'll be cheek LFT. Okay, and then I'll duplicate this again. Oh no, I moved it. Duplicate. This will be cheek right. Something we should have just done in the beginning. Okay, cheek right. And I'll add some like behind head pieces, I guess. So we'll duplicate this. And we'll call this like head back or something. Head BCK. And I'll just, maybe I'll scale it a bit differently. I don't know. Put it down a little bit. I'm not really sure. So we'll have to play with the movement and see what kind of shape we need for this thing. Probably want a bit of a forehead one too, to something to, or something in the front. So we could go duplicate this, and then we'll make a head front. FRNT. Okay, and this will scale down. I probably should actually scale the shape layer, but we're kind of breaking rules here. Okay, so let's just leave it like that. And I suppose just for the added benefit of making it interesting, let's make a nose. Actually, in these cheeks, we could add... Can I think I can. I can add extra contents to this thing, hey? Which it might break the illusion, though. Probably should, if we want like little cheek things. Just give me a second. I just want to add one more thing, which will help with the dimension. I'm going to do this shape. Well, that's a very hideous default. Cancel stroke. Put that to 0, no stroke. And our fill, we'll make it kind of a... let's make it a little yellowy. Good. So we'll call this cheek blush. Right. I'm saying right because I'm going from the perspective of the character, not the actual... I know my anchor points are all wrong, but LFT. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to show you. I'll get that shading stuff back in. So then typically, if I was really going crazy, I'd have a chin. I'd have all these other things, which you can do. I'll just put it in for now. We'll call head chin. You still can't do 360 super easy without managing the shapes a little bit and making sure that they're, you have to play with them, right? So let's say I was doing this. Let's do this, like make it like that. Okay, so we have this little chin now, and that will help. So now one of the things I sometimes do is, now what I'll do is spun Rita's way, which is sort of flat, and you sort of move things around and you can like push them around everything. Another way that you can do this is go like this. We'll make everything 3D. Actually, let's fix the anchor points first, because once you're in 3D, fixing anchor points is a little bit trickier. Anchor points are important because if you're going to be doing any scaling and stuff like that to help sell the illusion, your anchor point will determine the origin of your scaling. So do that. Okay, just gonna make sure they're roughly in the right place. They're not 100% in the right place, but I'm not going to freak out about it. That's another thing I don't love about shapes sometimes, is I just don't always get the exact. But it's because I don't use them a lot. I'm used to using masks, like making solids and using masks on them. Shapes are far more robust, especially if you want to do really interesting things with them. I don't know why that's down there. Did I mess something up? Okay, so now what we can do is, this is left. Make sure this is left. No, that's the wrong one. RTB, because you can't. This will go left. LFT, just bear with me 1 second because I can never have things all named poorly, because I have a little bit of an obsessive compulsive streak to me. So I'm going to parent that. Blush right to cheek right. Head front to head. I'm just parenting them now because it'll help me maintain the relationship. There we go. Eye right and eye left to the head. Great. Okay. I don't know CITR Vancouver at all. No, I haven't listened to it. What is this? What is the hotkey to center the anchor? I'm curious about that. Okay, so now that we have this like funny little character, actually, one thing I want to just add really quick is the nose, because we don't have a nose on this thing. So I'm going to do this the layer solid way, which is one way I really like. And we'll make this nose a little bit like this. Okay. We'll make it 300 by 300. Wonderful. And I'll double click this and I'll get a circle. Nose. Just like a little Muppet nose. We should probably change the color of it because it looks invisible almost. This character is the worst colors any ever picked. You know what I'm realizing we're missing? I know this is getting out of hand. We need a eyebrows really quickly. So I'll duplicate the nose. We'll do brow LFT, which should be on the right-hand side of the character's face. And I bet I messed up all my, I really bet I messed up my positioning of my things because I always do that. Okay, so this shouldn't take too much longer. Just bear with me for a little bit longer and we'll be done. So there we go. And then just duplicate that. Bring this over to the character's right side. We'll name it right. Okay, RT. So at this point, let's just rotate that like that, and we'll rotate this like that. So I've created this character. Now what I can do is I'm going to, all my anchor points are roughly in the right place. Let's select all this stuff. And then I'll select all and make it 3D. Okay. And I'll probably go into make sure we're in fast draft mode. Nope, not going to do that. We'll do that after we space it apart. I'm going to set up a camera. This is important. Set up your camera first. I'll make the lens relatively wide so that we get enough deformation. Put that up at the top. I can parent these eyebrows to the head, I guess. Or head front, not sure. Nose to the head. Just stand up for a bit. Let's see, what else? We have all these cheeks and stuff. Cheek left should be parented to the head. Cheek right, chin, all to the head. Great. So now what we can do is build the character. So I can go into custom view here. Look at it like this. And there's a few ways we can go about this. We've got stuff parented all over the place. I suppose another thing we could do is just go none. Sorry, I wasted all that time parenting. And just start pulling stuff forward and backwards. So we'll push this here. And let's take these eyes and the eyes. Well, we'll leave the eyes where they are. The cheek blush, we'll bring it forward a bit. Forward just a touch like that. The nose will come forward even more. There's going to be a lot of going back and forth on it. Well, not tons, but just a bit. And then the cheeks, I'll actually rotate them a little bit on the y-axis. And I will do that with the cheeks as well, but just not as much. I'm just eyeballing everything right now. So let's take the cheek left. So we'll put it like slightly that way. We'll get intersections to begin with, but once we're finished, we won't. Cheek right. -8, +8. Roughly. Great. And then we'll make sure the eyes are in front of those cheeks. Probably what I would do too is I would sculpt the cheeks so they fit with the eyes a little bit better. Let's pull those eyes forward a touch till we're off the cheeks. Cool. And our eyebrows, let's have a look. Our eyebrows should probably be in front of our eyes to create a nice brow. Like that. And then what we can do is just rotate them again on the y-axis. That way. So I'm just doing this because you can combine this with the technique Spunrita was showing, where you have a bunch of custom layers that you're animating them. Their slide essentially. Let's bring the chin forward a bit. There we go. And then head front. Well, we'll just leave that where it is. We don't necessarily need head front. Head front is probably more for something later. We'll push this back, and then we'll get head back involved. Like that. Control-Alt-Home. Thank you. Control-Alt-Home centers the anchor. That's wicked. Okay, so we can keep going with this. I think with the eyes too, I want to angle them just a bit more too. We'll angle the right eye and the left eye, rotate and rotate. This one will go there to -8. Done a lot of 8s on this one. 8. Oops, wrong one. Whoops, what did I do? I did something horrible. I think I deleted an eye. Rotate, and this one we want 8. So as we expand this out, you can keep going further and further with it. We'll gradually start getting this 3D character, this feeling of a 3D character. We can take the nose, duplicate the nose again, and then scale it down a little bit. Control-Alt-H. Looks like we're already centered, so we'll just scale this down a bit. Do it again. Scale it down a little more. Oh, that's a good. Yeah, I did it with Stalin too. See how you're starting to get this spherical looking nose? And it's totally not spherical, but it's sort of looking that way. So if we keep going, we can do the same thing with the cheeks. So my goal with this technique a little bit, and like sounds like Spunrita's already used it, and I'm really glad if you used it and it was helpful in any way. That makes me super happy. The goal with this is to eliminate as much need for sliding of shapes as possible, just because that can be a bit technical. It's a bit technical to get the sliding shapes to work right. But this is too, so it's really just pick your poison, right? It's character animation. It's 90% misery, no matter what you do. There's little bits of joy in there. I'm not saying there's no joy. There's amazing parts of joy, but there's also a lot of stuff that's not that awesome. Okay, well, actually, I'll scale this one up a little bit. I want to do a couple more. I'll push this back, bring this down. So sorry if this is repetitive to anybody. I don't have that many new ideas. Come up with new ones every now and then. Head front. So head front, I might actually use now and just bring it up for a... You can use it for a forehead piece, but I think I might just tuck it into the middle somewhere around here. It would help if this was a slightly different color just so I could tell what's going on. So if I want to do that, I can just do a generate and do like a fill or something and change the color of it so I can see when it pops through. You kind of want to be in the middle somewhere. And here you could do like hair and do all kinds of fun stuff, you know, whatever. Yeah, I think the goal of animation is to be more sadistic, enjoy pain more than you enjoy pleasure. If you did that, then, you know, like, then you're going to be happy most of the time. And strangely enough, there's probably a lot of us who enjoy the pain of animation as much as we enjoy the little happy parts that happen every now and then. Okay, cool. So now we're starting to get this head. It's looking pretty cool. It's a bit flat, I think, in the front, but that we can work on. Could probably angle those cheeks a little more. But it's really important to get your camera positioned, get your camera in there early, because that just helps you sculpt the face the way you want it. S&M via animation, yeah. Oh my god. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm just going to take one of these cheeks and I'm going to duplicate it. I'm being super messy right now. Breaking all the rules. I'm going to just make like a little ear. Now, you're not going to get a 360 turn out of this, but if you combine it with the sliding method and you keep your layers fairly solid like this, you can get away with a lot. And then I'll show you the next thing in 1 sec. So we'll just go, I just want to name this one ear, RT, and then I'll just darken this a bit. So I'll do a generate, fill, copy that, just darken it just a touch, so I can see it a bit better. We'll duplicate it and then I'll just put it on the other side of the head. All right, there you go. It's a little ridiculous, but it's a way of building stuff. And if you did these little illustrated layers, yeah, I have the same. I live for shots, really. The fleeting moments of joy and pride, yeah. I get those, I make a shot, and I think it's like super rad, and then I sit with it a while and I'm over it, and I'm looking for the next shot. That shot was good, but my next shot's gonna be even better. So what you can do now that you've had all these pieces, you can slide them around to help build things and build form, which is really helpful. So the next thing we can do is, there's a few things I'll just show you really quick. I'm not going to just get into blinks and head and eye and all that stuff. This stuff you can the eyes you can rig up with a position thing here, and you can slide them around. One thing I usually do with eyes too, actually, let me just show you really quick, is if we make this a 3D layer, let me just go this. I even do this I do the 3D thing on eyes, especially because, well, usually my eyes are round. So I would normally, even if my eyes were going to be oval like this, I would probably pre-comp them round, and then. But what you can do is you just take the position of the eye and pull it off like this. Control Shift Alt Home, is it? Control Alt Home. Okay, Control Alt Home. I just did that to get the thing centered. So then what you can do is, so I've positioned this off a little bit. I've probably shown this before too. Take your anchor point. Oh, actually, what I should do is let's leave it at 0. Control Alt Home, make sure that's centered, and just pull the anchor point forward like that. So now what happens is you can use a look at command, And what that basically, what you can do then is you can actually have the eye looking around. See, like that. So what you get for free by doing it like this is you get some distortion and displacement in the eye. And you can use a look at controller for it, right? So you now have this like nice rotation, and you're not having to rescale the eye specifically, and you don't have to stack it. So see, you're getting this nice warping of the eyeball, which looks really cool. And it's just because it's 3D, and so you're getting that aspect of it for free. So that's usually how I do eyes. And then because it's nested, let's just do this really quick. I can't remember the actual little code for the look at thing. Oh, well, good. We have two eyes. Anyways, they're both the same eye. You can swap that out real easy. Anyways, so I'm just going to do this really quick. I'm going to create a layer new, just a null object, and that's going to be my neck anchor point. Let's push that. That has to be 3D too. And we're just going to find the part of the head. And so the pivot point for a head is typically right underneath the ears, roughly where the jaw meets the skull, the base of the skull. It's kind of at the space in the middle. So now what you would do is you could mix this object's rotation values with sliding values of everything else once you get all this stuff in place. I'm just going to be really crude here and just parent the whole mess to this guy. Don't usually do it that crude because you probably would want to animate the eyebrows going up and down and stuff like that. You don't want them all, you want to be able to control them, but you don't want them all in the same thing. But now what you can do is just play with the orientation of the head. And what I'm seeing right now is I need to fatten up the back of the head. So let's go here. One of these head back guys need to get bigger. Well, probably a few of them. Okay, so we have a little more rotation. Now what I would also do is I would probably do more on the head, a few more panels, little things on the head, just to make that head hold together. But you push all your angles, right? Push them a little bit, and then you see where you need another piece. So I need another one here. You can just start filling it in because it's all solids, right? So it doesn't really, you're not going to see it break as easily. And I mean, you can adjust the scale as you need to create the roundness as you need to, but I really want to avoid clipping into the ears. So just sort of you test your positions. And then the last thing I'll just show you really quick is we'll zero this guy out really quickly. And I can't remember. I'm just going to create another layer really quick. Null object. So usually I then have like a look at thing, but not in this comp, but then I would put it also in another comp. And I just want to just do this really quick. And then what you do is you take the head. I can't remember. I know there's like a little, I think there's an actual thing where you can just tell a layer to look at another one. I'm not sure where that is. If any of you guys know, what is the thing that where you can just have another layer, a 3D layer, look at another one? I know there's a little bit of code I can do. I usually just do a little piece of code, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head because I never can. There's typically a way to make a 3D layer look at another layer, and I just can't remember what it is. Just like a button click you can do. Maybe it's under transform. Orientation. Oh, auto orient, I think. No, that's not it. That's orientating towards the camera. Layer. I swear there was a look at thing. Rotation. Okay, I can't remember where it is. You just, Colin Harvey, do you just type look at? Because I know and that's just in orientation. Because I thought there was one that you could do it just through a code press, but Does it work like that? I can't remember. No, it doesn't work like that. How does the code work on this? Do I need a bracket on there? I can't remember. Sorry. No. No. The eyes, so right now I'm not parenting. No, I'm just parenting the head. Okay. Thanks, Colin Harvey, for that. I can never remember the actual code for this off the top of my head. There's so few things I actually remember. Go like this. That. Okay, we're still getting... Okay, just bear with me for 1 sec, guys. What is my error in here? I cannot... Just bear with me. Sorry, guys. I know it's annoying. My coding is always garbage. I'm missing my comma. Oh, right. There, I got rid of it. Thank you. Couldn't see that. The screen is really small. Okay. So that being said, so now we have the look at controller. You can do the exact same thing for the eyes. So usually I do the same thing. So you have like a little look at, and you would put that in for the eyes. This just controls the head right now, but you can do the same thing with the eyes. And then, I mean, on top of that, you can offset. So if this rotation is not what you want, you just can rotate the head or change the orientation, whatever you want, just to the where you want it to be. And then you grab your look at controller and you drive your head around, which is great. And then you can also hook the eyes up to it. And usually I have the eyes hooked up to it as well. So it's the same concept. Let's just grab this again. It's the same exact concept for the eyes. Is you have a, let's put that back to 0. There. You can pull it 3D, pull it way out into the world. The nice thing about this is you can get them to cross their eyes really easily. Is this the one? Yes, it is. Paste. Okay, so that one. So now that these are sort of matched up, like you have one here, and so I would typically take this one and do the exact same thing. But as it gets closer, let's just have it so we can actually see it. As it gets closer, the eye becomes more responsive, right? So what you can do then is, let me just take this and put it in the other layer, as the other eyeball as well. There it is. Let's do the same bit of code on the orientation. Oh, it's not even 3D yet. Okay, this is what I'm going to do instead. We're going to delete the right eye, our left eye, because the right eye is the one we have our code in. We'll delete this. Oh, unless, hang on. What eye is in there? I want to make sure I have the right eye in there. Yeah, of course, it's eye right. And of course I did the code in eye left. All right. No problem. Watch. We just swap this out with eye left. I just don't want to lose the position. There we go. So now we can delete eye right. Yes, see you. Duplicate. RT. Okay. So now we have left. That should be right. So we'll put that there. Bonk. And now, oh yeah, this will be on YouTube. We're putting it all on YouTube. I put them up to YouTube, except this stream is like super long, but it doesn't matter. I think we've got unlimited as far as that's concerned. So our look at position here, this thing, or I can't see it right now for some reason. Oh, because we don't have a camera. Oh yeah, we do. We should have a camera. Eye left, eye right. There's no camera. So that's not helpful. This might change the look of things a little bit, but it shouldn't too badly. Okay. I think I might have messed something up. Of course I did a little bit. Yeah, nothing's following because I forgot to paste the code. That's fine. We'll just do it again. No. Sorry, guys. I know this is annoying. No problem. No problem. A little sloppy. This should just automatically work since the layer is named the same thing. It's look at. Okay, so now we have this look at controller. Oh, I didn't change the anchor. You know what I did? You know what I did that was stupid is I deleted the wrong eye. I was looking at the wrong eye, and I've completely messed up what I was doing. I'm a complete idiot. Now we have to do this all over again for both of them. -60. Sorry, guys. I'm an idiot sometimes. -60. Put this one 3D. You serious? What's going on now? It's the weirdest thing. I've created such a bizarre mess. Don't pay attention to me because I'm definitely being an idiot and messing things up somehow. Okay, so now the eye is falling around. Lovely. And so if we're not happy with where it's rotating, the nice thing about this is we just push the anchor point where we want it to be. So it looks better at 81. So 80. There we go. And we can scale this eyeball down, of course. You can add expressions to the scale of the eyeball, which is super fun. You can do all kinds of things with it. We'll put this eyeball at 80. And put this eyeball scale at 80. There we go. Which is too small for this one, it seems. Because now the look at doesn't look very good. It's angling off too early, so we need to push its anchor point out a little more. A lot of back and forth, I guess. It's okay, no problem. Probably have to do the same thing on this one. Yeah. Okay, the anchor point, change that out to 108. Great, good enough. Okay, so then we can put this look at point back. Really what we should have done is zeroed this look at point before. So you can do this thing. We'll just zero it out for now here. And then essentially what we can do is from this composition, we can grab this look at's position and add it to our eyeball. And use that to use this look at, so we can push the eyeball around with this. It gets a little bit messy. I mean, it's not messy, but I mean, I wasn't really prepped for this. So if we go to the look at position here, basically this is a bit sloppy, but what you do is you can take, let's just go here. You can take this one, which is at 1,000, negative whatever. You can take this one and essentially take this one and add bracket this one. I know it's hard to see at the moment, just bear with me. Minus, and then you just zero it out by going 1, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 1, 2, 3, comma, negative 1, 1, 6, 8. That's if everything's sort of in the right place already. So now what'll happen, hopefully, I didn't mess everything up, is on this one, we do this, and we do the same thing. What'll happen if the spaces are generally okay, the eyes will now move based on this thing's positioning. And if you feel like they're not moving enough, the nice thing is you could add a slider that controls it. That's probably the smartest thing to do. So if we make, let's say if on your head, your look at controller, let's just create an expression, put a slider, and say, I don't know, I influence or something, INF for influence. That's 0. So now what we can do is we do the same trick as just being over here. I'm just putting at the end of the code. This is so sloppy. Don't do it like this. It's just sloppy. I mean, you can do it like this. It's just a bit sloppy. That's all. I'm just gonna get an error because I have a multiplication with nothing happening. So then I go times. Oh, I forgot to do this thing. Okay, times, and then I can just pick WIP here to the I influence slider. This should work. Okay, great. So now I'll just copy. Usually you do one I first, and then you duplicate the whole thing. I did it a bit premature because I wasn't planning on showing this whole process, but now we are. Okay, so now the eyes aren't doing anything. They're not moving at all. But if I crank this influencer up to 1, now the eyes will move a little bit, right? And then I can crank it up to 2. Now they move a lot compared to the head. And then you can start getting into, if you really want to, yeah, it's kind of funny. My headset is really intense, but I use it because it tends to sound better. One thing I usually do too, just to help emphasize the actual way a head works, is the eye movement's exaggerated. So the eyes are moving more than the head, which is usually true because they have so little mass, and they tend to move faster. But then sometimes what I'll do too is I'll go on this look at here, and we have its position. So in this one, we're taking the position of this. I'm just trying to, there's a thing I like to do, and I'm just trying to remember how to do it. I think if I just do this, dot value at time, this may not work. I can't remember if this is the right code for this. Might have worked. So what usually happens if I do this is there'll be a slight delay on the head compared to the eyes. So if I keyframe this thing, and let's zoom in because we have a pretty wide timeline here. So we'll do like let's do a half-second head turn. Pull this over. We'll just do like an ease out. Let's pull these over a bit. There we go. So if that happens, what you get is eyes move first, head follows after. And you can change this time offset. You can attach it to a slider or something. Then the head turns. Technically, what would be nice is to have like a linear interpolation or a weighted interpolation of that movement so that the head actually technically moves slower than the eyes. But it's just a good little cheat. Just gives a little extra lead on the eyes. Right. See? So, and then, head turns are rarely like that, so you usually have a bit of an arc in the head turn. And a blink. You'd have a blink. We're not doing blinks. I'm not setting up a blink. I usually do add blinks, of course. But now, so we got head turn. And then there was one last thing I wanted to show you, which was, so this head can turn quite a bit. You can go pretty far with it. You can go way further if you just keep adding things to it, or adjusting the sliding like Spunrita was doing, and sliding some of these pieces as well. It will continue to add more depth to it. So, and then what I usually like to do too is, this is my favorite thing to do, is I go into this guy, and let's say I just do this. I've already demoed this before, but it's one of my favorite ways to animate, which is why I love. Anyways, you go like this. Oh, right, you can't do a 3D layer. It's kind of annoying, but anyways, you create like a new. This is if you have this problem and you can't create a 3D layer. Sometimes what I do is I'll just make a 2D one, and then I can just this. It's kind of crazy. I'll just take this. I'm going to record this because it doesn't matter. You can't see it anyway. Hey, what's over there? Oh, nothing. Okay, so it just recorded. Actually, let's do it again. Pull out. We'll do 8 seconds. And this is the kind of stuff, I think you can do this in Character Animator really easily too. So maybe it's kind of pointless to do it the way we're doing it. I don't know. It's just characters looking around like, what's over there? And then looks over here. Hey, nothing there. Oh, I'll look back here. Oh, maybe I'll look over here and I'll look back again. Over. And now I can just take that animation because they have the same location. I can just paste it. Usually what I'll do is I'll actually create a relationship with that driver. Bring this down. I just want the X value. Oh, you know what? That messed up the... Why did that mess that up so badly? Interesting. I wonder if that's possible. Nope. Weird. It really messed up the... That's weird. Oh, because I put it to 0. That's no problem. Watch, I'll just do this and then put this back to negative 1,168. There we go. Okay. This is a cheat. Normally what I do is I'll take this and I'll parent it to this and not add the 0. It's just a dumb thing. Or make it 3D. Oh, it just did the same thing again. Okay, we need to do this then. This is really annoying. Make it 3D because we did motion sketch. I'm sorry, I'm really cheating. This is not the best workflow. And I'm just group selecting everything. I'm just trying to show you an idea. Okay, we'll just do that. I know it's really garbagey moving it like this. You should really just create an expression. I probably should have done that. It would have been just way faster. Now I spent all this time just trying to cheat it. But so I've done motion sketch now. And once you've done that, you can just start getting a little bit more lifelike behavior from your character pretty fast. And once you've added blinks and stuff in there, it can be pretty cool. The eyes are obviously going a little too far out of the head. So that problem can be fixed 2 ways. Bring the anchor point of this in a bit. To like, we'll just do 90. And we'll do the same thing in the other eye. Oh, we already did that one, of course. I always do that. I just pick the wrong one. All right, there we go. This is... Okay, so that's good enough for now. I mean, the eye needs some work, whatever. It's not perfect, but it's just the idea more than anything. And those could slide over even. And, oh yeah, and then the other thing you can do with eyes too, which is really fun, is I'm duplicating this. I'm going to bring it forward in front of everything. You know, with your expression, you're saying you don't understand expressions at all. You really don't need to understand them super well. I barely get by, honestly. I'm doing pick whip everywhere. I super suck at remembering anything. I'm the worst coder that's one of the worst coders that's ever lived. The only thing that makes me better than some people is that I'm not super, at least I try to keep things sort of organized, but really I leave a lot to be desired. Okay, so now we have little shinies on the eye, which is nice. So now I just want to show you this last thing, which is just a real quick trick. After you've animated all your stuff and you're happy with how it all looks. This is some stuff I've been experimenting a lot with. I did for the brown bear stuff. Is we can take this comp, we'll just name it. Call it head raw. And maybe we'll put the word full in it because we might do multiple layers. So let's say you've done all your animation, you're happy with how it looks. I'm pulling it into a pre-comp. Call this COMP. Now, let's go here and we'll just add, we can do 2 things. We can add layer styles, which don't work good in 3D layers, but it works great if you're compositing. So I'm adding a bevel. Basically doing the exact same thing we were doing before. Just crank this size up. Soften it up a whole bunch. Can change the color of it. Just put the highlight color to like a yellow. Because it's sunny. Let's put the shadow to kind of a bluish color. Maybe purple might be better since he's orange. Because Blue just makes orange gray. Okay, I can put overlay maybe. It might look bad. No, that looks horrible. Don't do it. Might be able to do it for the light thing here. Okay, and then we can make this even bigger. As big as you want, really. Change the angle if you want to. Got a bit of lighting there. Okay, so then there's a couple things we can go a little crazy. You can. I'm just going to show you this really quick. Now, this is more when you get into you've finished your animation and you're happy with it. So what I started experimenting with is let's take this one and call it head. We'll call it raw, but we'll call it nose. I'm going to do one just for the nose and the eyes really quick. But we basically take all this. We leave it all the same. We just turn everything off. And then we just turn on the nose. And then we can take this into head full. And then we pop in nose. And then we give... And we can go into head full here and turn nose off. Gone. Again, you wait till you're done all your animation and you're happy with it. Then this is the next level of just making stuff look kind of cool. We can go bevel and emboss. Size, crank that size up. Soften. Actually, you know what? Let's just match the one we have because we kind of want the lighting to be the same. So we'll just copy this. You can also link all this stuff with just using simple Control Alt C or something. Paste it. So that's the same. Now the next thing we can do is just add like a little drop shadow. So layer styles, drop shadow. Let's change the angle. So there, let's make the distance up a bit more so we can see what we're doing. Should be this way. Change the size of it so it's more just soft. Give it a kind of a bluish tint or something. Could be super warm too. We could go super red on it. Actually, let's make it kind of green. So it's doing a bit of a cast shadow, like a little bit of bounce light. Cool. And we can change this size so it's not so big. Oh, sorry, not of the shadow, of the bevel. But don't forget, you can add a number of bevels. So let's say we have this bevel. And then what we could do, I don't think you can do more than one bevel in the layer effects. It's possible you can, but sometimes what I do is I'll add another bevel. So actually you can do it this way. This is a little messier because it requires a couple of one extra step, but it looks really rad. You can do it on the head too. You go like this. You duplicate this, and then you say generate, fill, turn it to a 50% gray. So this allows you to do. This will allow you to do multiple shadows. You kill all the layer effects. I mean, you can keep them if you want, but and then you just can go. Actually, we can add a new one. It's a couple of things you can do with it. Is you could do this and mix it with another layer, but then you can also. So let's just take the size way down. And what I want to do here is just change the angle. I'm not sure if you can add multiple. It's possible you can. I don't know though. And let's say this one I add like a little rim light, like that. And I'll probably kill the shadow, just get rid of it. So turn this one to, I guess we can just go 0 opacity because I want to just get a little rim light on that guy. And then you can take this one and just put its blending mode to overlay or screen. Like I'm just doing an overlay. And I can do the same thing with this one. So I'm just going to copy this layer style. Normally what I do is I do a Control Alt C just so it's the same on all of them. So here, and then I'll do the fill thing here. The only reason I do an overlay is because that means I could also add extra shadows on it as well. So, and it would pick it up. Otherwise I could just do a screen. There. Doesn't look like it's showing up super well, but let's just see what we can do. I might be doing something wrong. Oops, wrong one. That one. Oh, it's there. It's just kind of getting muted by the darks. So maybe we could just do on this one. Oh, let's just do normal. There we go. Oh, that's funny. Your son said our shadows are, and that's true. That's a great observation. I wonder if your child will be an artist. That's a really good observation. It took me forever to realize that our shadows are blue just because that's the color of the ambient light of the air, and that because there's no direct sunlight on it, you're seeing the ambient light. Obviously, you can go really crazy with this. Like, not like I wouldn't include necessarily the ear into this one layer because the ear's looking a little bubbled rounded. Um, I would probably have a separate ear layer and a separate. It just like find a way to make it work a little better, or bring the cheeks on a separate layer and put a little highlight on them. You could do that too. Um, but it's kind of cool. It works pretty well. And then what can you do after that? Is oh yeah, I was gonna do the eyes really quick. I'll just show you the eyes. But it's, I mean, you can get a lot for. And now the nice thing is I mean, if this animation was driven by the code properly on this one, it would drive all the comps. So it wouldn't matter if you decided to change the animation just because you have this all embedded like this, it would still work. As long as you coded it so that it was referencing code and it wasn't referencing pasted animation layers like I was just doing. Usually I have a root comp that drives everything that sits in the front of all of it. It just takes a little more time to set up. So let's just do the head full raw. Let's just take the eyes. We want to grab the eyes out. So I'm just duplicate that. Whoops. And we'll do the same thing. We're just going to take head full raw, duplicate, and we'll just call that. We'll just do both eyes for now. Eyes. That should have been in capitals to be on par with everything else, but just turn everyone off. See you later. And so now we can do the head full comp. The eyes should be behind the nose, at least in this case. Obviously, if you're doing really crazy head turns, you're going to want to, oh, you know what? We need to put the eyebrows in front too. What we could do with the eyebrows is we could probably jam them in with the nose and they'll look okay. Yeah, they look all right. The shadow's a bit too big for them, but... And in head full raw, we need to turn the eyeballs off. Don't have to, but it's probably a good idea just not to be too messy. So now we have the eyes, and then we can basically, well, just add some layer effects to them too. Bevel and emboss to start. Probably should have just done the global angle on everything, but I didn't. And on this one, I'll make sure my shadows are kind of orangish because they should be reflecting a little bit of what's on the face. We'll make our highlights kind of yellowy. There we go. Let's size them up. Soften it. I would like to do, it would be nice if I could do like a little edge on it, but I don't think that's going to happen. Like to do like a ridge edge, which I can do now. I just have to do, actually on this one, what I could do is I could go perspective because I don't need to soften it. You can use this one, bevel alpha, and this one I can throw on. I think that works, although it might be under, oh, it probably is under my layer style, which is kind of annoying. Let's just see, yeah. It's underneath my layer style. So usually, we're just going to have to duplicate the eye. That's the one. I wish you could stack multiple layer styles. I just don't think you can. I think you can also do a thing where you only see the layer style. Which might be advanced blending. Yeah, you put fill opacity to 0, and all you'll see is just the layer style. So you don't have to do that weird overlay thing I just did. I just figured that out just now. I just thought of it right now, so I'm sorry if I misled you in any way. So let's just change the angle essentially to the opposite. I just want to do a little edge shadow here, and we'll put this one to 0 effectively. Although it could have like a little bit of a shadow. We'll just reduce the size of it. There's a tiny shadow there, and this one could be our like kind of light blue green color, like that. We'll crank that way up, and we'll skinny it up. Oh, really small. So now we're getting this sort of like little thing going on. Oh, you can add group? Okay, cool. Thanks. I didn't know you could do that. So you can apparently you can stack the plugins or the so you go layer styles. How do you do it though? Yeah, let me know. Add you can stack go add empty group. Do you do that here? Just maybe if you can tell me where it is, because I've never done it before. That'd be great. All right, and I just wanted to do a drop shadow actually. I forgot to do that. Apparently there's a way to do this properly. I just don't know what it is. I should probably just tell it to use the global light actually, because I'm getting the, let's just make size. Look how 3D this thing looks now. It's so 3D. It's pretty sweet. It's pretty ridiculous you can get this much 3D out of it. Anyways, almost gonna stop here because we're at like 120. I know Colin Harvey. He needs this character. He, she, they needs some eyelids, but I didn't put any on. It's like so much extra to do. Also, what I usually do too is the eyebrows are usually driven a little bit by the direction of the eye. So wherever the eye's sitting, I usually push the eyebrows up and down a bit. That gives it a little more life, right? So you just attach a little expression. I know I make everything look scared because on the inside I'm scared of reality. I think there's something I'm experiencing that I'm transmitting in all the characters I make. What was the other thing I did? I cannot remember. There's something I was doing to unify everything. Anyways, yeah, I mean, play with layer styles because it's super rad. You can do a lot with them, especially if you're using solid layers. And if you mix it up with some like toon shade or like texture stuff, I do have a toon shader thing I sometimes use. Although you have to be careful. I should be, you know what? I never even saved one time, which we could have had a crash and then I would have just lost everything. But once you unify everything together a little bit with, I don't know, I'm just going to go to the real quick stylized thing from this universe plugin, which, I mean, it's definitely, sometimes it crashes. This is not like the way to do things specifically, but I found that when you mixed it with stuff, it looked pretty good. Oh, there'll be the replay. We post them on Twitch, so they'll be there. Just I think it's your name or oh geez, I can't pronounce your name. Delamar. I'm gonna say the last part of your name, Delamar or Delamere. The rest of the stream, most of the stream is just something totally different. So the last part is more of this stuff. So if you want to just, it's going to be online as soon as we finish. It'll upload, and then you'll have it. And then after that, what we do is we save them all to YouTube. Oh, my Universe membership. What are you doing? The computer's freaking out. Uh, so I don't know if that helps. So they're all saved onto YouTube, and then what we do is we unlock them on YouTube a few, after we tidy them up a little bit sometimes, but every week we try to upload one that we haven't. Anyways, there's this tune plugin that you can use, and you mix it. If you mix this tune plugin, which is generally, it's not super great, but if you mix it and you blend it with other things, it can be really good. And I don't know why it's freaking out the way it's laid out. Cartoon flatness. I don't even know all these things. Excuse me. Well, this one adds a bit of noise to it, which is sort of cool. Just if you want to tone down. Oh, I'm only at quarter resolution too. If you want to just tone down the digitalness a bit. And one of the other things I typically do if I want to kill off a bit of digitalness is just add some roughness to the edges. So if you take this, I think we go to stylize. You can go roughen edges. Okay, stop doing that. And then I think the border is fine the way it is. Then you just crank this fractal influence. I think one is as high as you can go. Scale, I think we bring the scale down. I used this on this other project. It's probably obvious I did. But once you mix this in, and then you can put the evolution up really high. But I actually find offset works a little bit better. I'm just going to key it, but usually I use a little expression just to throw the offset and just make it fly into space. Go so far. Just freak it all out. I'm going to get it. I promise I'm going to get it. I have so many things. Colin Harvey, you've got a list of things I got to fix so much. Anyways, there's so much I have to do. So you put that on, and if you're like me and you're not a fan of really smooth boils, you can either stick that in a nested comp, or you can do what I do so much, which is a cliche, and it's very in itself. Is sometimes what I'll do is sometimes I often posterize, because nobody animates at 24 frames per second in my world, because I'm scared of animating that fast. So usually, let's throw it down to 8. You'll lose some expression on your character for sure. But I'm going to get it. Colin Harvey, I'm going to get it. I'm going to tell them Colin Harvey CG sent me. And I think you should get a sponsorship deal or something. It's rendering. It's rendering slow. Things will slow down once you start going this crazy with everything. So now it's sort of a toony animated guy. What else can you do? You could add a little bit more of that stuff to it that we were talking about before, like those deformers and spherized things and all kinds of stuff. I'm going to tell them you sent me. I will. That's probably a little bit of too low of a frame rate. But then once you add some paper texture on that thing and stuff, it'll look pretty good. This guy is sketched out. But what's cool about this, lastly, is you're getting those little shadows under the chin and stuff. So if you played up enough layers, yeah, I do the same thing, Colin Harvey. So, and that's sort of the rule of animation, is that if you're going to do something fast, like a run, that's on 2s or 1s. So it's 24 frames per second or 12. But if you have a character that's sort of standing and leaning a little bit, that you might put on 3s or 4s. it is stupid. It's funny. Anyways, well, I'm probably gonna stop the stream because it's getting on 1:30. That means I won't be home and in bed till 2, and I got to get up tomorrow early. So, anyways, I'm glad you guys hung out. I hope it's helpful, and I really appreciate all the stuff I got to see tonight with you guys. And Spunrita, thanks for sharing your process. That was super rad. Love seeing it. And Colin Harvey, thanks for all the tips as usual. Everybody needs a Colin Harvey CG. We all need a Colin Harvey CGU later that we can just like punch in. Things will pop up. Yeah, so it looks like we all have to be up. Some of us have to be up early. We're all gonna get like 3 or 4 hours of sleep, unless you're on the other side of the planet. Cool. Thanks for the time, guys. No, it's super fun. I love you. I'm always up late working, but anyways, it's really cool. Thank you for hanging out. I hope there's something in there. I'm gonna find somewhere I can post these resources so that there are actual things up online that you can grab down. I'm thinking of just a Dropbox folder or something like that. But anyways, thanks for hanging out, and I appreciate it. So it's great. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you. I'll be back online. Schedule has changed, so I think my next day is Tuesday night at this time, and then we have one during the day on Fridays. So all right, cool, perfect. Thank you for everything. I'll see you. Thanks.